team there.
Will the running backs continue to drop tonight? Can Tim McCullough or Mike Nazarek come up with their third top 5 overall finish? And will one of the 4 returning Pros vs. Joes champs be able to repeat this evening? Follow along with the live draft board and listen to our live analysis as we call the action from the 2017 FFPC Pros vs. Joes Better Call Saul Division number 6 draft to see who will win a 2018 FFPC main event team. We've got a great show for you. Dave Gerzak is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Thinking of a master plan. This ain't nothing but sweat inside my hands. So I dig into my pocket, all my money spent. So I get deeper, but still coming up for lint. So I start my mission, leave my residence, thinking how could I get some dead presidents? I need money. I used to be a stick-up kid, so I think of all the devious things I did. 1, 2, 3, 4. I used to roll up, this is a hole up. Ain't nothing funny, stop smiling. You still don't nothing move but the money. But now I learn that.
Broadcast live and heard around the world. You are now listening to the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. It's the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for football analysis from the best fantasy players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak.
I don't like to dream about getting paid, so I dig into the books of the rhymes that I made. Soon as a test to see if I got pulled.
Thank you very much, Rob. Greetings and salutations, all you Balkaholics and Gerzak fanatics. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com right here on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. My co-host is indeed the patron saint of fantasy football, the Dizzle, Dave Gerzak. Tonight we have the final show of 6 special episodes in 2017 for you. It is the Pros vs. Joes Better Call Saul Division number 6 draft tonight, and we will be covering it for 2 full hours. Follow the live draft board at youtube.com/highstakesfantasyfootball. Shout out to the chat room right now for everybody listening at blogtalkradio.com/HSFF. The video link is in there for you as well. Post any questions you guys might have in there for tonight's drafters or for myself or Dave. We are on this new app called Twitter at HSFF Hour, at Eric Balkman, at David Gerzak. You can post on our Facebook page, facebook.com/HSFF Hour. If you want to chime in and talk with us, give us a call at 347-426-3682. That's 347-GAME-OVA. You can also email the show at the inbox, highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, now is the time to send them. Our audio engineer, Bryce, our producer and mutual friend, Rob, will get those questions to us throughout the evening tonight. FFPC, myffpc.com, also featuring the Football Guys Players Championship, the main event, best balls, draft expert double-ups, dynasties, and much more right now. MyFFPC.com. A ton of drafts, both of live and slow nature going on. You can sign up for those right there. And if you want your early draft spot for the main event, go ahead and get your team paid for by August 14th, and you will have your draft slot where you're picking live at Planet Hollywood in Vegas or from the comfort of your own home 2 days later on Wednesday, August 16th. As a reminder, Planet Hollywood's doing a great job welcoming the FFPC players with huge discounts for staying at the establishment from Tuesday through Saturday. Massive discounts. Contact Greg Sidoris, our live event host, at 855-VIP-HOST or lvch77@aol.com as well. Email him there, and he will get you hooked up. We have to take a quick break to start off the show, but when I get back, we'll tell you who's drafting tonight here on the HSFF Hour. A High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour bringing you the Pros vs. Joes Division number 6 draft tonight. It is the final one that we're doing this year, and it's a very exciting night, Dave, because we have not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 league champs from Pros vs. Joes last year drafting in the contest tonight. I won't even bring them all up. I'll just go down and tell you who is a returning league champ, but the fact that we have 4 in here, this is the most power-packed Pros vs. Joes draft we've ever had. I know you are excited. Literally on the edge of your seat right now.
Very excited. This is going to be so great, Paul T.
That's Dave Gerzak. Now, he is excited, but he has done this, 5 of these shows already, so he's running on fumes.
Pretending not to be excited. This will be great.
Brad Kirkland is the FFPC Joe, drafting in the 1 spot tonight. Jay Myers from Dynasty Football Warehouse drafting in the 2 spot. A returning champ from last year, and actually the overall runner-up, Kimra Schleicher, is drafting 3. She is the FFPC Joe there. Hitting cleanup is another league champ from last year, Jared Smola from DraftSharks.com. Steve Reeses, who you heard on these airwaves about a month ago, who co-hosted the show with me. He is the FFPC Joe on the 5th spot. Darren Armani, the godfather of the Pros versus Joes competition from FantasyMojo.com, drafting 6th tonight. Bob McGilvray from the FFPC Joes contingent, drafting 7th. Former overall champ and returning league champ, Tim McCullough from RotoExperts.com, drafting 8th. Rich McClellan and Roger Gonzalez, that team is drafting 9th tonight. Mike Nazarick, another returning champ, and who will actually be on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour next Friday. He will be attending, be on the show then. We'll talk to him about his draft from FFMastermind.com. He is drafting 10th. Nolan Ortiz, the final FFPC Joe of the evening, drafting 11th. And then Ray Summerlin from RotoWorld.com. Ray Summerlin, not a returning Pros vs. Joes champ from last year. He is, however, the defending Scott Fishbowl title holder. Hundreds of teams in that contest, so certainly an accomplishment in its own right.
That's a big deal, though.
Yes, it's a star-studded cast tonight. Let's talk about what has already transpired in the first round with now that we are complete here. No surprise at the top, Brad Kirkland takes David Johnson with the first overall pick. Le'Veon Bell is Jay Myers' selection at 2, and Ezekiel Elliott does go to Kimra Schleicher at 3. So Kimra takes Ezekiel Elliott there, Dave, and I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but I still think that this is a compelling situation to watch for Football Guys drafts and FFPC drafts going forward. Until we get some resolution on this Ezekiel Elliott thing, the NFL dragging their knuckles and their hooves trying to get this situation taken care of. As always. Yes.
Supposedly they're running there's investigations going on.
What's the over-under on when we actually hear whether there's going to be a suspension or not? In the Dizzle's estimation.
I haven't really been paying attention because I don't watch ESPN, especially this time of year.
Right.
I mean, you had it on a little bit today at the office. And
first of all, I turned it on because there's nothing else on.
Right. I'm not faulting you.
Okay. All right.
And I think they had a defensive lineman. He spent like 5 minutes on. They were analyzing a defensive lineman dancing against another young lady dancing as well in the stands. And they spent like 5 or 6 minutes on it. It was just terrible television, terrible overall. So I haven't been paying attention to it. I would say probably the next 3 weeks, 2 weeks.
Okay, fair enough.
That's just a guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right.
Who knows what they're doing?
It's not going to bleed into the season, right?
It shouldn't.
I mean, we'll find out before the season starts.
They really should let the Cowboys know before week 3, so they have a chance to really give their game plan for week 3 or for week 1 in the week 3 of preseason.
Good point. Antonio Brown is the 4th pick tonight. He goes to Jared Smola from DraftSharks. The number 5 pick, Julio Jones, goes to Steve Arizis, and then Odell Beckham to Darren Armani right after that. Do you think that there's a separation of the top 6 players in FFPC drafts this year? I've been hearing this more and more, the Power 6, the Big 6. And it would be these first 6
Yeah, it does seem that way.
Actually,
you can see that for sure.
And I have seen other players obviously creep up, but I think
you don't usually see these 6 fall past pick 7 or 8. I mean, generally not even past the 6th spot.
Right. LaShawn McCoy to Bob McGilvray at the 107 tonight. Todd Gurley to Tim McCullough. So a first-round selection for Todd Gurley.
Goes early.
Biggest surprise of the night, Todd Gurley at the 108 to Tim McCullough, of course, the number 1 overall ranked player in this competition, as he has two.
Rankings are so stupid.
He's a number 1 overall finish. He has a third place overall. It was a 4th place overall. 2 top 5 finishes, including 1 overall title.
Yeah, it is actually true though. If that is how you should rank him, he should be first because of those finishes.
Todd Gurley normally going at the 210. He goes at the 108. So that is the big surprise thus far.
He's going to the 3rd in a few of these.
Yes, and I've seen him fall all the way to the late 3rd in certain Football Guys drafts this year already. So Tim McCullough, big fan of Todd Gurley. I think we might hear from him tonight, so we'll definitely talk to him about that and why he made him his choice there. Another minor surprise, I guess, at 109, Jordy Nelson is the 4th receiver off the board. I haven't seen that a whole lot this year, but it's certainly hard to argue with a guy who is coming off an ACL tear, 1 comeback player of the year, had, the 1,200 yards, the 90 catches, the 14 touchdowns. It was insane. Led the league in receiving touchdowns. Had a great year, so you can certainly get behind that pick at 109. Melvin Gordon is the selection. By the way, 109 was Rich McClellan there taking him. And then the 110, Michael Nazarek takes Melvin Gordon, the Chargers running back. And then A.J. Green, the 111 tonight to Nolan Ortiz, rounding things out. In the 12th round, the 12th pick is Michael Thomas to Ray Summerlin. So, Dave, no purple on the board in the first round tonight. We've seen it pretty much every pros versus. I think this is the second draft. We haven't seen a tight end go in the first round. Again, it's one of the storylines we always follow, and I think it's going to be important tonight to see how they go. Maybe this is the night they slip. We haven't seen a draft where the tight ends really fell significantly. This could be tonight.
So when you're commissioning these drafts and you see and the tight ends do kind of slip, you then, I think what you see, and this is my opinion, you see less doubling up, and you probably see more of the runs. Like you'll see like 4 or 5 pop off in the 4th round or 3rd round or something like that.
Similar in the same
in the 6th round or 5th and 6th as well.
I would say 5th and 6th, and similar to how you see the quarterbacks and the kickers go in these DE competitions. That's how you see the tight ends go in the 20-round classics where you do have waivers. They will just pop off, boom, 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 right in a row. Again, you're right. You don't see a whole lot of doubling up. Occasionally you do. I mean, somebody will take those like two tight ends in the they'll take their. Somebody like Delaney Walker in the 5th, followed up with somebody like Hunter Henry in the 6th.
So they're seeing value emerge because no one else is taking it.
Or they again try to force the issue. So, which is difficult to do if you're not doing it right away. But some people still try to do it, and it works out sometimes.
The late force.
Sometimes it doesn't. No other surprises for me here in the first round. Michael Thomas was a guy I think when we launched drafts, the post Super Bowl drafts that we had. Back in February and March, I was seeing Michael Thomas go at the turn, so I think to see him go here, that makes a lot of sense tonight. Let's get to round 2 here. DeMarco Murray is the first selection off the board to Ray Summerlin, followed by Mike Evans, who slips all the way to the 202 tonight, Dave. Really good value there, in my opinion, when you can get a guy like Mike Evans, who normally is going at the 109 spot in these drafts, and you'd say, oh, bulky, it's 5 picks or whatever. That's kind of significant when you're at the top half of the round. I do believe he regresses in targets. I still think he's going to get a ton of targets this year.
Yeah, he's going to get a lot of red zone looks. He's in the prime of his career, Balky. I think, and you have improving Jameis Winston. It's going to be a great hookup between the two.
You can even make the case he hasn't yet entered his prime.
You could make the case.
Wasn't he super young coming into the NFL?
He was
too?
young, very young. Yeah.
So I mean,
he was like 21 probably.
He's a guy who you can't even see the crescendo for him, man. It's so far in the distance. He's on the upswing.
You never hear problems with Mike Evans, right?
No, you don't.
It's just a positive. It's so funny that Johnny Manziel is like washed out of the league and Mike Evans is thriving.
Yeah, thriving. He made Manziel apparently at Texas A&M.
Hey, you can make that case.
Devontae Freeman, the 7th running back off the board tonight to Mike Nazarek, so he starts running back. Next to him, Rich McClellan starts receiver, Jordy Nelson, T.Y. Hilton, followed by Rob Gronkowski to Tim McCullough there. So
his first tight end.
He pairs Todd Gurley and then Rob Gronkowski. Now, the interesting thing and for those people who don't listen, Tim McCullough won this competition in 2014 by not really exactly knowing all the rules, that it was a DE. He only drafted 1 tight end, still won the whole thing. Now, you look at this situation here.
Antonio Gates, by the way.
It was Antonio Gates that he took. You look at this situation right here, Rob Gronkowski. He takes the first tight end off the board. Maybe he thinks he's good now.
He should. Now he can ignore it.
Now he
can. He's got a good one again.
If you're going to take 1 tight end, you can't do much better than Rob Gronkowski. Bob McGilvray starts off running back with Jordan Howard here going at the 206 tonight. Travis Kelce, the 2nd tight end off the board to Darren Armani at the 207. Jay Ajayi right after that to Steve Reeses to pair with his Julio Jones from the first round. Des Bryant contributes to Jared Smola's receiver start. Kimmer Schleicher takes Brandon Cooks here at the 210. The penultimate pick of the second round.
Kimmer took a former New Orleans Saints
player. Yeah.
She loved Brandon Cooks when he was on the Saints, and now he moved over, and she's still taking him.
Well, listen, we don't draft the team; we draft the player. And I
think she's liked Cooks a lot. But, yeah.
Leonard Fournette is the second to last pick here in the second round. Leonard Fournette going to Jay Myers from Dynasty Football Warehouse, and closing things out here in the second round, the 3rd tight end selected, Jimmy Graham to Brad Kirkland, FFPC.
Interesting, Jimmy Graham over Greg Olsen. I guess I shouldn't mention players, but whatever.
Well, this is probably the earliest I've seen Jimmy Graham go in the Pros versus Joes. If you look at his ADP with FFPC right now in the DE and the best ball formats, he's not going to usually the end of the third round. So this is a round jump. But he's not getting, again, Brad Kirkland is not going to be able to get Jimmy Graham coming back to him in the fourth round. He had to either take him at the 212 or the 301 here if he did want him. And he did. So he took him there. That is it for the second round, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get to a break here. When we come back, we will have more coverage from the third round, plus live player interviews. You're listening to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour right here on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. The action rolls on here with the FFPC Pros versus Joes final draft. I can't even say the penultimate draft. This is the ultimate draft. And it really is the ultimate draft tonight here on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour because we have 4 returning league champs from last year's PBJ competition. Kimmer Schleicher, Jared Smola, Mike Nazarick, and Tim McCullough all trying to defend their titles, all in the same league. So we definitely saved the best for last this year in the competition as far as the accomplishments go. And we are entering the third round of action here. We've already seen some surprises. We saw Todd Gurley go to Tim McCullough at the 108 tonight. We saw Jimmy Graham go at the 212. I think those are the two that stick out for me right now. You can make the case that there was some other somewhat surprising picks, but I don't think anything that was that shocking. To me, I think the storyline early here is no tight ends going in the first round, and then you have a lot of teams starting off with the same player. Jared Smola, receiver. Bob McGillivray, running back. Rich McClellan, Roger Gonzalez, receiver. Mike Nazarick, running back. Nolan Ortiz, receiver. So we're seeing a lot of, adding, where you're already strong, you're adding more strength to it early on in the draft. And I always think that's interesting to watch, especially what we saw with Dennis Young doing last night, going with 6 straight receivers to start. I don't know if we'll see anything crazy like that tonight, but we will see some teams loading up at one position.
I think Dennis did go 5 receivers, and then he took Kelvin Benjamin, if I think that's how it went. But this is my guess. If we talk to Nazarick or Nolan Ortiz, I would think that Nazarick took Melvin Gordon, and he was considering taking Freeman. He's like, Gordon or Freeman. He's like, I'll take Gordon. And then he came around, and Freeman was there. He's like, took him. I can almost guarantee Nolan Ortiz had the same thoughts. He's like, A.J. Green or Evans. Took A.J. Green and was shocked that Evans came back around and took him. So I think they're both pretty happy with their second-round picks. And you know what? I'm happy with those picks, too.
Say all 4 of those players you're seeing pretty consistently in the first round of the DE formats here. Between Green, Evans.
Freeman goes, 10, 11, 12 usually, right?
Yeah, I mean, Evans normally is the 109. A.J. Green's normally the 110. Melvin Gordon's normally the 111. That's how we see it. Freeman at the 112. Yeah, right, so you're seeing basically the last 4 picks of the first round falling, 2 of them falling to the second round. So you're essentially they're pulling off the Patriots' move. You get these first-round talents in the second round, and that's certainly what they pulled off there. We are entering the third round here, ladies and gentlemen. The rainbow start from Brad Kirkland. After going running back tight end, he gets Demaryius Thomas at the 301. You talk about Des Bryant, who I see went at the 209 tonight to Jared Smola. Being that turn pick for Team 1 in a lot of these drafts, yeah. Demaryius Thomas seems like he's another guy that seems to be going on the turn quite a bit.
He's coming up, it seems like. I thought he was going to the mid-third for a while, and now he's really kind of coming up.
Mid to late third, I would say, probably a month ago, and now he's just creeping up because people are like, you know what, his warts aren't that big. I could get on board with him.
I think you look at the other players getting taken in that neighborhood, and their warts are worse.
DeAndre Hopkins, the 302 pick tonight to Jay Myers. Amari Cooper goes right after that to Kimra Schleicher. Ty Montgomery creeping all the way up to the 304 tonight to Jared Smola. Ty Montgomery, a running back, the starting running back for a high-powered offense in Green Bay. Normally going at the 405, Jared Smola reaches down and plucks him tonight. And Jared Smola, I will say, and really the whole Draft Sharks crew, they are big proponents of the Eric Balkman strategy of go get your guys. No, not suck. They're brilliant. They have award-winning projections there. They know what they're doing. And Jared Smola going out and getting his guys. Can I go ahead?
No, I don't have anything to say. I said suck. That was my comment.
So you think the pick sucks? You don't like it?
No, I think your strategy overall is to just suck.
Whatever.
So that's why I was wondering if that was theirs. It's not even a very funny joke, but I keep laughing.
Well, I know you apparently think it's hilarious.
You're moderately annoyed.
I'm not moderately annoyed. I'm totally annoyed. No, I would like to submit for your consideration to the Ascendant semifinalists, Ty Montgomery, running back.
Sure, I'm up
Packers.
there.
Yeah, I think that he's got the potential to even rise higher, depending upon how preseason goes, and obviously we're going to see a lot of Jamal Williams. We're going to see a lot of Aaron Jones in the preseason. I don't know how much Montgomery we'll see, but
do the Packers have that family goofball night?
Yes,
thing
it's sold out.
Of course, it's always sold out.
Yeah.
You know what tickets like $8?
I don't know what they are. I thought they raised them up this
And then
year.
the fans always, people bring their kids, and then of course there's a bunch of drunk people who just get, they're throwing up all over the place. And
Right.
Just make
It's not that bad, but yeah.
Anyway, so that's always before the first preseason. Is that this weekend then?
It might be. It might be this coming Saturday.
I would guess it's this Saturday.
Did you
the Hall of Fame game?
Do you know when the Hall of Fame game is this year?
Yes, Thursday.
Thursday night. So I thought it was always on a Sunday.
It used to be.
And then
I thought it was either Sunday. No, it was Sunday night. You're right.
And they switched it because of the turf thing?
They probably switched it because it sucked. I mean, who wants to watch this game on a Sunday night? But, I mean, now it's weird because now the game is before the actual induction ceremony.
Yeah.
Which is smart because what's the highlight? This terrible game where nobody plays?
Right.
Or is the highlight the actual Hall of Famers getting inducted?
Right.
I think this is actually a lot more sensible.
I thought it was because, they canceled the game last year because I think the turf was so chewed up from the ceremony.
I forgot. That was hilarious.
And it's terrible. It's like all these people that were super ticked off that, we finally get football. No, you don't. You're going to have to wait another week.
Well, I mean, the worst, as Leroy would say, the worst part is that
real Leroy, of course, FFPC player.
A lot of these people would pay like $3,000 or $2,500 for these Hall of Fame packages through these, whether it's through the NFL. The NFL was selling them too. Mm-hmm. When they had game tickets, you get to meet all the Hall of Famers. You get the golden jacket thing. You're doing all the stuff at breakfast, and now you don't even get the game. I mean, that blows. I
had a lot of, obviously the Packers are playing in it last year, and being in Northeast Wisconsin, I'm friends with a ton of Packers fans, and Facebook just blew up with all these people that travel down there to see Brett Favre's induction and then see Aaron Rodgers playing the game. Or not Aaron Rodgers, but, all the other Packers or whatever, and just blasting the NFL about how much money they spent. And
they should.
Isaiah,
they were probably paying like $350 a night to stay in a Motel 6, even if, if they didn't even go to get the big package deal. They're paying a comfort suite, $425 a night. I mean, that's what they're probably paying out down there.
Isaiah Crowell is the next running back off the board tonight. He goes at the 3:05 tonight to Steve Reeses, followed by Greg Olson. So we see Darren Armani from Fantasy Mojo, guy who has watched all these drafts intently, seeing what happens. He is the guy who is the first player to double up on tight ends tonight with Kelsey and Olsen. He's doing it from a precarious position right in the middle. Kind of tough to force action there, Dave, but he gets Kelsey and Olsen. We'll see how that pays off.
That's a great pick. I think you might want to do your little thing your little Pac-Man gobble-up thing.
No, you can do it.
I don't want to do
it. No, you can do it.
I hate them. I hate it.
Just, Dave, go ahead. Okay, Bulky, fine. No. All right, that was good. That was good. You're no longer a Pac-Man virgin. Doug Baldwin.
I don't know if it was Pac-Man, what it is, but it's just so...
Just eating delicious food or making delicious picks. Doug Baldwin to Bob Gilbray tonight at the 3:07, followed by the second rookie running back off the board, and it is Joe Mixon, and he is the second running back drafted by Tim McCullough, so he pairs Todd Gurley with Joe Mixon in his backfield. Lamar Miller, the pick right after that, to McClellan Gonzalez, and then Keenan Allen, the fifth receiver taken in the third round to Mike Nazarick. That is actually the leader of his receiver corps, as it is the first receiver taken off the board, and a massive, massive change in Christian McCaffrey's draft stock. He goes in the mid-sixth last night. Tonight he goes at the end of the third, as Nolan Ortiz is number one running back, and completing the third round is Marshawn Lynch to Ray Summerlin.
It just shows the insane value of that six-round pick last night. That was nuts.
Yeah, it was a very shrewd pick. And honestly, we
it was an unshrewd pick by the prior 12 or 13 draft. Drafters, they take 13, not drafters, but 13 picks.
You could make the case that we can't even give, and I can't remember who took him. I know it was a pro.
They should have taken him in the final round.
Can't even praise him because, why didn't you take him in the fifth?
Yeah,
why didn't you take him in the fourth?
I mean, it's true. Like, in the fifth round, if you don't take him there and someone else takes him, you're like, I could have almost got McCaffrey. No, you passed on him in the fifth.
McCaffrey.
Terrible pick, but good pick.
McCaffrey has a 405 ADP in the FFPC best ball format.
405 ADP, and he's getting talked up all over the place, and these guys let him drop 24 picks. A rookie hype running back. It's insane.
Speaking of rookie hype running backs, we're going to get to who Nolan Ortiz took in the second, or with his turn pick here in the fourth round. Before we get to that, Marshawn Lynch. the 3-12 tenant. He seems to be settling in there in these drafts at that, team 12 taking. He is sort of like the Des Bryant of the opposite end of the board.
Right.
We're seeing him fall in line so much to that team 12.
I'll say this: these guys draft a lot more slowly than the other guys, because usually we're trying to we're falling behind, and now we're actually just trying to think of crap to say, because you guys are so terrible at drafting. It takes so long to make.
They're not terrible at it. They're just methodical.
They're smart at it.
They're deliberate. So that's how they do it.
That's how you win championships, because 4 of these guys did it.
And again, you have Darren Armani brought this up on the show last night when you were busy trying to get the technical difficulties squared away. But he said, look, yes, the pros are at a disadvantage here because they're not normally used to drafting in a tight end premium format where tight ends get 1.5 points per catch.
How hard is it? Bump them up or half?
Not only that, but the dual flex where you have you could start 3 tight ends or 4 running backs. It takes them getting used to. And Armani said, he pointed in the slides, look, some of these FFPC Joes get selected based on them paying for their main event team by the early bird deadline. Main event
just entering, but yes.
It's entering. It's a 20-round draft, the main event. This is 28. So he said, look, there's a lot of these guys here that are FFPC Joes that are still not used to this format. They're not used to the runs of the quarterbacks and the tight ends and the kickers and the defense.
That's actually true.
Some of them are used to it. Some of them are not.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Some of these guys just only draft main events and only play classic type formats.
Or classics, exactly. Yeah. So you see, this is a brand new format for them tonight. Jordan Reed, the first pick off the board at the 401. Let's just briefly, we have about 60 seconds here to discuss Jordan Reed.
Yeah.
News came out that no timetable for his return. He's seeing a specialist.
Here's my rule of thumb.
Yeah.
If Joe Bryan is sending a breaking news email to me about a certain player,
Joe Bryan from footballguys.com.
I'm not taking him. I'm not taking that player today. Guess what? Andrew Luck. There was a breaking news email on Andrew Luck today. I'm not taking him.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
Yeah. Seriously, though, if Bryant did not...
I'm actually being serious.
I know, but kidding aside, I'm not kidding, Balky. If I can get another angle on your opinion here. If the email doesn't get sent out, what's your opinion on Reed right now?
I wasn't, I've been talking about Reed before. I'm not drafting him. I don't take him. He's an injury-prone player.
Right.
I'm not going to take an injury-prone player. Why would I do that?
Yeah. Well, there's certainly some upside. I get what you're saying. There's
other players not injury-prone.
That is definitely true, and there's plenty of non-injury-prone players here going in the 4th round, and we're going to bring that analysis to you and tell you who's going here. We have to take another break. I am Eric Balkman. He is David Gerzak. This is the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. More Pros versus Joes draft coverage still to come right after this. Balky in the Dizzle, bringing it strong tonight with the Pros versus Joes coverage.
Yeah.
The final Pros versus Joes competition of the year, the Better Call Saul division number 6. We are covering it for you pick by pick here on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. We talked about Jordan Reed, the first pick of the 4th round before the break, and actually I teased the selection to Nolan Ortiz that he made in the 4th round before we talked about Reed.
Very exciting.
Upside running backs, rookie running backs that are getting a lot of news, making a lot of headlines right now. It seems like the story coming out of Vikings camp is Dalvin Cook, and he goes at the 402 tonight. Dave, I rip on you because you say that you are really liking Cook.
When I dogged him after the combine,
right?
But then the ESPN Sports Science came out, and it made me a true believer.
Now, so talk about that a little bit, because Dalvin Cook's numbers for
the combine.
At the combine for a first, second round pick were historically bad.
Very rough.
Really, really bad.
Right.
So what about the sports science segment that you saw on ESPN helped you sort of get okay, kind of not ignore those numbers, but maybe not put so much importance on them, the combine numbers?
Well, the sports science they're actually using scientific numbers. They're using data. They're using his actual ability to play with pads on. And you hear that people always say, he plays better with pads on, this and that. And I did watch not to the level of Matt Waldman. I mean, that's absurd. I have another life that I don't want to spend it all watching film.
Just part of it.
But I've watched enough film. I mean, he looked really, really good on tape. I mean, I feel like even in my non-skilled tape watching ability, I can see when someone looks good. He looks fantastic. Yeah. So the fact that article or that whatever it was came out, that actually made me realize, okay, maybe he just had a bad day at the combine. Whatever it was, he's a really good football player. So I can get past someone not being. I'm not just a numbers guy.
He's maybe a better football player than an athlete. Like, he plays when the pads go on, he certainly steps up his game.
Yeah, maybe he didn't prep all that well. These guys, it's kind of like studying for the ACT. It's like, if you just go in and take the ACT, you're going to get a certain number. But if you go and study and take a 14-week prep class and do this and that, you're going to go up like 8 to 10 points. I mean, you can game the exam. It's kind of like studying for any exam. And, I don't know, he's probably drinking, smoking booze, drinking booze, whatever.
Well, I mean, not even that, but, I mean, maybe he just had a bad day. Maybe he just got up on the wrong side of the bed. I mean, these guys, it's so important. Maybe
Shady had a bad combine because he was supposedly sick. Was that correct? Shady McCoy?
That sounds vaguely familiar, but that was a while ago, so I don't know. I mean, you're talking like 8 years ago now,
right,
or whatever it was, so I don't really remember.
Well, he was one of the only players that have had bad combine performances quite as poor as Cooks.
But it sounds like from Vikings camp that the veterans are very impressed with him, very impressed with what he's doing. And I'll tell you this, too. As far as Dalvin Cook goes, I'm a big Florida State fan. I've followed Florida State now for, 20-plus years. And Devontae Freeman was a guy that I wasn't really that excited about when he came into the NFL. I thought he was like, he's just going to be another Florida State running back.
He was only a fourth-round pick, right?
Yeah, it wasn't a pedigree guy. Right. It was just kind of like whatever. And now look at him.
Yeah.
Okay? Dalvin Cook, I was telling you about this in his sophomore season.
Yeah, you like him a lot.
I said this guy is going to be crazy. He's going to be the number 1 overall dynasty pick when he comes out. Now, that didn't happen, and he came out in a historically great running back class. But he was still going usually behind, in a lot of dynasties, behind Mixon, behind McCaffrey, behind Fournette. So I think that there is something here. Dalvin Cook, I didn't even nominate him as an ascendant semifinalist. You were the one who did that. So he's already on the list to tell you about, how high we are on Cook right now.
Let me ask you a question about Cook. Do we have time?
Yeah, we got plenty of time. There's a long segment.
So does he have a younger brother that's going to end up being, that Cecil Lammey thinks is going to be better than him?
He actually does have a younger brother named James Cook, who actually is
Captain Cook?
Is very
a pirate?
I think he's faster than Cook. His numbers were actually faster. Who committed to Florida State, and now he's uncommitted.
Really?
So which is too bad because he's a 5-star recruit.
So really, at running back?
Yes.
And he's a Penn incoming freshman?
He will be a freshman in 2018, but he has not.
So he kind of committed way early.
He committed way early.
Who the hell commits when you're like a junior?
It's high school kids, man. This is what they do. So he will be a freshman somewhere in 2018. Still hoping Florida State can bring him back, but.
So do you want to just briefly mention how Cecil Lammey and you and I got into an argument?
Okay, it's not really that big of a deal, but we love the Football Guys podcast, all the great work that Football Guys does, and they're doing their preseason watch list right now, and they talked about the Carolina, fantasy skill players, and they talked about Christian McCaffrey and Cecil Lammey, who his son has played against the high school that the McCaffrey boys go to. I've seen them play in person, and he thinks that Dylan McCaffrey, who is a freshman right now at the University of Michigan, playing for the Wolverines, is actually the best McCaffrey. And
what was his exact quote?
That he is the best McCaffrey. I think
he's
it was
the best McCaffrey. He will be the best McCaffrey.
He didn't say will be, but
he's
obviously he wasn't. He doesn't mean that Dylan McCaffrey is
better than
Christian right now.
Right.
But talent-wise, I think that's what the inference was. I said, wow, that's interesting for a guy who's seen these guys play in person. You immediately.
So I think that's a ridiculous statement to say.
I don't think it's that ridiculous.
It's totally ridiculous.
Meaning,
when a guy gets drafted, McCaffrey got drafted 9th.
Well, okay, let me.
NFL,
okay, but let me.
The pinnacle.
Right.
I mean, granted, he could be a very good football player.
Right. But
the odds of him being better. Go ahead.
Let me make this point, because I thought of this, and I'm like, I totally should have told this to Gerzak. What about the Carrs? Because David Carr was the number 1 overall pick, and if you said, like, oh, Derek's going to be better, people would have been like, he was the number 1 overall pick.
First of all, it's a single sample size. What about the Mannings? Peyton Manning, Eli Manning.
That's another...
Eli's vastly worse than Peyton.
Well, a lot of people said that Eli was actually the better quarterback, the better winner.
But
I'm just saying, like, it's not.
What matters is who's the better pitchman. And obviously Peyton
Manning is clearly the better
He's much
pitchman.
more charismatic.
Yeah.
The guy who socks up on the ottoman.
Yeah.
Telling you about insurance.
Yeah.
Anyway, that
Nationwide is on his side, so he does have that going for him.
All right, so
that was the McCaffrey thing. So
I guess
when we're doing this show in 4 years and Dylan McCaffrey's in the draft, we'll remember episode 302.
If you're in the DB leagues, Debbie leagues.
Yeah, DB.
Devo, DB.
Yeah, Debbie.
Obviously, I don't do any DB leagues.
You're not whipping those.
Take McCaffrey and take the 16-year-old Cook.
No, he's not 16.
17.
He's 18.
Oh, and he's only a junior?
No, okay, so he turns 18 this year, I guess, is what I would say.
Whatever. Take him.
All right. Moving on. Let's talk about another one of your guys. Well, we don't have to talk about him here.
McCullough took Jamal Charles here in the 5th round, Balky.
What? Really?
Yeah, I think they're pulling that pick
off. Okay.
At least I hope so.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. Tyreek Hill. I got your boys confused there. Tyreek Hill is the 403 pick tonight to Mike Nazarick, and then Allen Robinson is the 3rd receiver drafted by McClellan Gonzalez there at the 404. Devontae Adams, the pick here at the 405 to Tim McCullough. So that is his first receiver. His number 1 receiver, number 2 on his team. May not make a difference because Adams could have a baller contract season. Golden Tate, the 2nd receiver off the board here to Bob McGilvray. Golden Tate paired with Doug Baldwin. Sammy Watkins goes to Darren Armani as his number 2 receiver here in the 4th, followed by another number 2 receiver for Steve Reeses. That is Michael Crabtree here going at the 408. Carlos Hyde, once again, off the board to Jared Smola from Draft Sharks, which I think is interesting to say or talk about because Matt Schauf drafted Carlos Hyde in the 4th round, roughly in that same spot last night. I think he was the 3 or the 4 pick last night. Smola's the 4 pick tonight. He grabs Carlos Hyde to go with Ty Montgomery there. Martavis Bryant goes off the board to Kimra Schleicher at the 410, followed by Alshon Jeffrey, the number 2 receiver drafted by Jay Myers from Dynasty Football Warehouse. And then Terrell Pryor goes as the final pick of the 4th round here to Brad Kirkland as his number 2 receiver. So a lot of receivers go off the board this round. You're looking at 9 receivers in the 4th round. So here's what we're talking about, like more stacking the positions and then the runs coming. Usually you don't see a whole lot of runs with running back and receiver. We do tonight here in the 4th round. We see through 4 rounds, we already are looking at 2 teams with 3 receivers. That is Kimra Schleicher and Roger Gonzalez, Rich McClellan. 2 FFPC Joes loading up on receiver here, Dave, and no tight ends go off. Well, excuse me, Jordan Reed was the first pick of the 4th round, but he's the only tight end to go off the board here and the 5th tight end off the board overall. Any surprises for you here in the 4th round? Is this the new spot for Carlos Hyde? I mean, is this where he's going, or is this simply the Draft Sharks bump of them trying to get him taken in the 4th round?
Well, one thing you can say is you don't need to pay for Draft Sharks, so you already know that like Carlos Hyde.
Right, yeah, clearly.
Don't spend the money. Just take Carlos Hyde. You have Draft Sharks breakout comeback player of the year. I really don't know that, by the way.
The Draft Sharks actually announced their comeback player of the year, I think, last week. Wasn't it?
I am a subscriber. I didn't read that article. I read the 1st round bust article.
Then that just came out today.
I'm not revealing that. That's premium content.
Yeah.
If you want to find that out, I'm not saying David. Oh, nothing.
I'll just say this. Their 1st round bust. He went in the 1st round tonight.
He's such a knob.
I don't even know who it is, but I'm just guessing that he went in the 1st round tonight.
It's not David Johnson. That's all I'm telling you.
I interrupted you when I asked you about any surprises here in the 4th round.
Martavis Bryant's a little bit of a surprise here in the 410 for Kimra.
I know you don't like him.
You're right. I don't like him. And
personally,
he was wearing I'm sure he's a fine individual. Goes in the mid-5th usually, right?
5'10" actually in this format.
A little bit late.
Yeah. So that's interesting selection by Kimra, but you can't deny the upside. And again, only first place gets paid out in this format, a 2018 FFPC main event, and she knows she's going up against, she herself, a returning Pros vs. Joes champ. She knows she's going up against 3 other ones in this draft, so you got to pick to win a little bit.
I do respect Kimra's really, truly, she drafts great. So if I see a few more awesome players like her drafting Brian, I might have to reconsider. No offense to you, Balky.
What do you mean awesome? Like awesome FFPC?
Yeah, high stakes players.
Oh, okay.
If I'm in Kentucky and I see somebody else, like the Cruz brothers, if they're out and I see them take Brian before the high society league or whatever the big payback that the Trails got there, I might have to consider them.
I can tell you,
I will let those people influence me a little bit because I do respect their ability.
Right, and you have no respect for mine. That's fine. I can't wait to beat your
strategy is the suck.
Whatever. It's not the suck strategy. I will tell you that 2 other noted high-stakes players have been taking Martavis Bryant. Maybe not this early, but definitely selecting him in several drafts.
Is that bad form for me to parrot their picks?
No, I think that's winning. That's winning form. That's the unsuck strategy.
I don't do that all the time. I just did it. If someone I really am not a big fan of, but these other guys that guys and girls, are really taking somebody that I'll go that direction.
Okay. What we do all the time on the show is take breaks. More after this on the HSFF Hour. Balky and the Dizzle, Eric Balkman, Dave Gerzak, High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour covering the Pros versus Joes Division number 6 Better Call Saul League tonight. We are through 5 rounds, but I know our analysis has been lacking in the 5th round. And if you like tight ends, there's a bunch of them here. And we talked about the tight end runs going in the 5th and 6th round. The 5th round tonight is where you are seeing the tight ends pop off the board. Kicking things off here in the 5th round, Tyler Eifert to Brad Kirkland as his number 2 tight end. So the FFPC Joe drafting from the 1 spot has 2 tight ends through 5 rounds. Jarvis Landry, the 3rd receiver selected by Jay Myers here at the 502, followed by the number 1 tight end for Kimra Schleicher, Zach Ertz from Philadelphia is her selection there. Mark Ingram will be the 3rd running back selected by Jared Smola. Ty Montgomery in the 3rd, Carlos Hyde in the 4th, and Mark Ingram in the 5th here. The quarterback cherry has been popped. I apologize if that's in poor form to say on this show, but Aaron Rodgers, given some of the stuff we talk about on this show, Aaron Rodgers goes at the 505 as the number 1 quarterback off the board. Certainly good value on Aaron Rodgers. Even at the quarterback position, you're looking at him normally going in FFPC best balls at the 310, so to fall in the mid-5th. Great job there by team number 5, who was Steve Reeses, the FFPC Joe. Darren Armani cannot get enough tight ends on his squad. Kyle Rudolph is his 3rd one selected through 5 rounds.
That's just not very nice.
So he gets, he's like, look, you guys aren't going to take tight ends. I'm going to make you take tight ends. Kyle Rudolph is his number 3 tight end going in the 5th round tonight. Jameis Crowder, the 3rd receiver selected by Bob McGilvray. And then Jamal Charles, who we talked about, Tim McCullough takes him as his number 2 running back there. Spencer Ware.
What's his ADP?
Jamal Charles? It's
you started
significantly lower.
You kind of half giggled at the question.
Spencer Ware. I'm not going to – listen, he's the number 1 ranked Pros versus Joes player of all time. I'm not going to fault him.
I think he timed out and then didn't tell Bryce.
Who knows? Spencer Ware is the number 2 running back selected by Roger Gonzalez, Rich McClellan, that team up there. Spencer Ware going at the 509 tonight, followed by a pair of tight ends. Delaney Walker goes to Mike Nazarick, and then Eric Ebron to Nolan Ortiz. Those guys are both those players number 1 tight ends this year. And then Danny Woodhead completing things here in the 5th round. He goes at the 512 as the number 3 running back to Scott Fishbowl, returning champion, Ray Summerlin from rotoworld.com. You like the RotoWorld, Dave? I like that website.
It's not too shabby.
Yeah, it's a good one. I check it a lot.
Solid writers up in there.
Evan Silva, one of the best you heard on this show a couple of weeks ago, or actually last Friday he was on this show.
Bulky, it seems like 3 months ago with all these broadcasts.
It's all blurring together here. Speaking of blurring together, great value. I'm not going to talk about quarterbacks being great values in the 5th round, but Aaron Rodgers at the 505 tonight by Steve Reeses. Job well done, sir.
You got the discount, double check.
What in the hell is Darren Armani doing? He has watched all these Pros versus Joes drafts. I don't know if anybody's had 3 tight ends through 5 rounds. Darren does it tonight. Certainly trying to corner the market here on tight ends.
It's not a bad strategy. I mean, he totally got value on Olsen, and I don't think Rudolph. That sounds about right for him, too. It might even be late for
I was going to say, well, for the Pros versus Joes, I mean, we've seen him go in the 4th round.
I've seen him in the 4th a lot.
A lot of times his ADP is 412 when it's the normal FFPC best ball draft.
You're still picking off like 7 picks worth of value at tight end, which is tough to do.
A half round, and I think what contributed to that a little bit is you're looking at Kyle Rudolph in the 5th round. There had only been 6 tight ends taken up until that point in the mid-5th. So certainly that's one way to capitalize on value, and that's what Darren Armani did there. No other surprises to me in that round. I mean, we talked about Jamal Charles, but not going to fault the champ, Dave. Tim McCullough knows what he's doing.
Well, you never say mean things to him.
Listen.
That pick sucked. That was terrible.
I said that by the way, I don't know if we talked about this, but Chris Carlson last night, the tickler, FFPC Joe, won a lot of money.
When did he take his tight end?
Round 21 was when he took his first tight end. I can't remember. I just.
Well, how could you? He won't be on a roster in 3 weeks, probably.
You don't know about that. I don't know.
Carlson, good job, buddy. That's awesome.
And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for our first hour of coverage here tonight on the Pros versus Joes draft number 6. We have much more coming up in the second hour, including hopefully some player interviews. Some of these drafters tell us what's going on. You are listening to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Pause 10 for station identifications. Welcome back to hour number 2 of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour here, covering the 2017 final FFPC Pros versus Joes Division number 6 draft. It is the Better Call Saul division, and we have all the live action from everybody making their picks here tonight. We are through 5 rounds. The tight ends, as we talked about in the first hour, finally are starting to come off the board here in the 5th. We saw 5 of them going off the board, and Dave Gerzak and I are here to tell you about what happened in the 6th round, and we'll go back to the first pick of the 6th round, and it was the 4th running back selected by Ray Summerlin. That was Tevin Coleman, the number 2 running back for Atlanta. He is his number 4 running back to go with DeMarco Murray, Marshawn Lynch, and Danny Woodhead. Julian Edelman is the pick here at the 6:02 to Nolan Ortiz in FFPC Joe, followed by Larry Fitzgerald to Mike Nazarek. Larry Fitzgerald is his 3rd receiver that he has taken tonight. Emmanuel Sanders, the 4th receiver taken by Rich McClellan and Roger Gonzalez there at the 9 spot. And the 2nd quarterback comes off the board in Tom Brady. Terrific Tom Terrific goes to Tim McCullough. Tim Terrific in this format, as he has won the overall competition before. First pro, by the way, ever to win this competition was Tim McCullough, so he goes with Tom Brady there.
This is interesting how the quarterbacks are kind of falling here. This feels a little bit to me, like one of the big payback leagues in Kentucky, where quarterbacks are like fall. And granted, that's a classic type format, so they fall, but not as they're not going to fall as far here because it's DE format. But because I don't know, just these types of drafters, 4 champions, I think that these people are all willing to wait on quarterback a little bit further than normal. Even for a DE drafter, you're taking 2 or 3 of them. So
yeah.
We'll see if that trend continues.
Kimmer Schleicher, Jared Smola, Mike Nazarek, and Tim McCullough, all returning champions to this format. They come in tonight, and the quarterbacks are dropping. What do you make of Tim McCullough getting Brady here? Look who his 2nd-round pick was, Rob Gronkowski. That could pay dividends down the road. If Gronk does have a massive season, you would think that Tom Brady has a lot to do with that. And that can put up a lot of points pretty fast here, Dave.
Sure can. That's not bad.
Hunter Henry, the number 1 tight end taken by Bob McGillivray here. He goes in the 6th round, followed by a couple of running backs. Mike Gillislee to Darren Armani as his number 1 running back. Bilal Powell coming off the board to Steve Rezas right after that. Jared Smola has his number 1 tight end. It is indeed Martellus Bennett, loading up on them Packers, Dave, with Ty Montgomery and Martellus Bennett both on his squad. Adrian Peterson pops off in the 6th round tonight, the 6'10" to Kimra Schleicher, another Saint, Dave. She drafted a former Saint, and now she pairs that with a current Saint. What's with Adrian Peterson? I know.
I don't want to talk about it. You talk about it.
Well, okay, fine.
I told you about my opinion about Peterson last night.
No, I'm just curious because, like, it does seem like there is a lot of analysis out there from a lot of guys in the industry that really like Peterson, and now we have 6 industry guys here tonight that let him slip again until the 6th round, the late 6th round, which is one of the later spots that we've seen him go in the Pros versus Joes.
Where's his ADP?
His ADP for FFPC best ball formats, he is normally going all the way down to the 7-11.
So you're saying he slipped to a spot that's
in
his normal spot?
I guess my point would be that because we've seen so many pros in these, they're not usually letting him slip that far, and tonight they let him slip again.
Yeah. He slipped up. I think they're all slipping up and taking him too early. Kimra?
I know you don't like Adrian Peterson.
I don't like Adrian Peterson. No, you took him around early.
Okay, fair enough. Stephon Diggs, the penultimate player here in the 6th round to Jay Myers, and then Willie Snead, the final pick of the 6th round to FFPC Joe. Brad Kirkland is his number 3 receiver off the board. That is going to be a team we follow since he has 1 running back through 6 rounds. We'll have to see how he fills in the cracks there. Darren Armani finally gets his number 1 running back in this round in Mike Gillislee, which is an interesting choice there, but it certainly could pay off big time given those tight ends that he has already drafted. And if Gillislee does have 70 or 80% of the season LeGarrette Blount had last year, that's not a bad way to go with that pick.
Yeah, there's a little bit of risk there, but it's risk you like because of the way he did the rest of his team, I should say.
Yeah, Ray Summerlin down there, 4 running backs now on his squad through 6 rounds, only 1 receiver.
Through 6.
You only.
I think he kind of overdid it a little bit with the running backs.
In this format, you only have to start 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and 1 tight end, and they get the 2 flexes. This is best ball, so you don't have to worry about starting guys.
The problem I have with going so many running backs is that the drop-off at running back is so far and so fast and so furious that when you're taking a running back as your 3rd and 4th running back, you are being a little bit conceited, no offense, but you're being conceited in saying that I'm picking these guys lower and lower and lower, but I think they're going to perform at a top 12 type rate, even though they normally don't. When you take a look at, historically speaking, running backs 24 through 36 are just terrible. They're scoring like 120, 130, 140, 150 points. When you can get receivers there that are definitely going to score higher, I think that's, I don't really care for it. Although I like the Woodhead pick.
Like the Woodhead pick indeed there to Ray Summerlin, as I do as well. Let's get through the 7th round here, Dave. Theo Riddick goes as the number 2 running back to Brad Kirkland here, followed by Frank Gore to Jay Myers, and then Derrick Henry. Kimra Schleicher's number 3 running back, and then Jared Smola adds his number 4 running back in Amir Abdullah from Detroit. Jason Witten is the number 1 tight end chosen by Steve Reeses here from the 5 spot at the 705, and then you have Eddie Lacy as the number 2 running back drafted by Darren Armani. So he pairs Gillislee and Lacy as his starting backfield after the 3 tight ends and the 2 receivers there. Doug Martin going off in the mid-7th here tonight, right after the Eddie Lacy pick. And then you see John Brown, Tim McCullough takes John Brown in the 7th round. And to me, that seems a little bit early from where he normally goes. Nice. Yeah, 10:04 normally. Yeah. So Tim McCullough getting his guys tonight, and that is his number 2 receiver in this format.
I feel like when you say getting your guys, or they just put an equal sign reach.
Well, I mean,
that's
yeah.
your way of saying it's a reach.
I'm not saying it's by ADP. It is totally, yeah. But I'm not saying like I wouldn't have taken if I say he's getting his guys. That doesn't mean
it's a reach.
But by ADP, I'm not saying it's a bad pick. I'm not saying I wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
there.
You don't say bad things about other people.
That's not true. I've said plenty of bad things
about my picks.
Plenty of bad. It happens. Okay, it does happen. You just got to listen for it.
You got to identify.
Got to identify.
All right, that's great. Good job, Balky.
Thank you.
You're the best.
Yeah, I really am. Jack Doyle to Roger Gonzalez, Rich McClellan right after that. Jack Doyle is their number 1 tight end, followed by Paul Perkins. I've been getting some feedback from listeners saying that Paul Perkins actually is a guy you ripped on him quite a bit in his rookie year, yeah. and I was saying that there's something there. They have
through
something.
the off season,
and now
all the way up to the draft. We had a bet that I lost.
Right,
because
yeah.
The Giants stupidly didn't take a running back during the biggest running back class of all time. They anointed Paul Perkins as
No, they
the
did
leader.
take a running back.
Yeah, Gallman.
Yeah.
He sucks.
And they took him in the 5th. You needed them to take a running back in the first 3 rounds.
For me to win the bet. I'm a little jaded, admittedly.
Yeah.
But anyway, you had a point.
Well, my point was, like, some people are saying, like, I think Dave likes Paul Perkins now. And I don't know if it's just you totally negged him so bad initially that.
Yes, now we're dating?
Well, yeah. But that he's
That's a dating trick,
I'm well aware.
The girls have been negging you for years, and finally they came around.
Yeah, my wife.
She negged.
She negged me to the altar, and it works.
That's pretty funny.
It works.
That's pretty funny.
So, but people are saying you like Paul Perkins this year. Is that true? Do you like him? Do you like him?
I kind of,
check yes or no.
In the 7th round, I do like him. Absolutely. Why not? It's a decent offense. You have Eli Manning. You have great wide receivers. I mean, they're not going to put 8 in the box. You think they're going to put 8 in the box with Brandon Marshall, Odell Beckham, Shepard, Ingram even will be running around out there.
Yeah.
I think Perkins could have a fine year. Just because I don't necessarily agree that he's a talented player. I mean, maybe he runs for 5 yards a carry. I mean, I've been wrong before, but I actually like the situation he's in. Why not? And you can get Gallman for cheap if you decide you're handcuffing. Why not take him too? Yeah,
you can get Gallman very cheap in this format. You don't really go after handcuffs too much when you draft it, do you?
In draft experts, I do, especially if I'm a little bit. In draft experts, I tend to not go super crazy at wide receiver, running back. So I will a lot of times, like if I had Nazarek's team, I would be all right taking Gordon, Freeman, Perkins, and maybe Gallman, and then a couple of really crappy guys in like the 20th round, and pretty much just hoping that those 3 guys don't get hurt, but then trying to be really good everywhere else.
But those are the risks you have to take when you have to finish in first. Yeah. Like second gets you nothing. So I mean that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and every once in a while, if you have an injury, that you may not have an RB2 if there's a bye week or something like that, but it's okay.
Now people will point to, well, Tim McCullough had 1 tight end and he won it, so don't tell me that everything has to go right for you.
It doesn't, yeah. But then you can get some wide. If you're stacking running backs, or if you're stacking receivers, I should say, along with some tight ends, you can get some huge weeks. Like he can get big weeks out of Allen and Tyreek Hill and Fitz here.
Heavy target guy. Tyreek Hill's getting some good pub out of Kansas City camp too.
No surprise there, Balky.
Well, not to you, but maybe to others. Let's get the pick after Paul Perkins tonight. was Devontae Parker to Nolan Ortiz as his number 4 receiver. And then Pierre Garçon, a guy I believe went in the 7th round last night. Ray Summerlin takes him in the 7th round tonight. You were of the opinion that it was too early last night, but maybe it's just a case of Pierre Garçon is creeping up draft boards.
He's going to get a ton of targets, Bulky. I gotta admit that.
He is, it's going at the 710 in FFPC best ball ADP. So as far as, where he normally goes, that seems about accurate.
He needed wide receivers, and actually I think he got some nice, actually for him, that's a good value, Garçon and Kelvin Benjamin.
We have one team in this format who does not have a tight end yet. We'll have to see what he does. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll tell you the results of the 8th round as we get into the second third of this DE format here on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. I am Eric Balkman. He is Dave Gerzak, and this is, of course, the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour rolls on here on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. Our final Pros versus Joes coverage of 2017 Division number 6. It is, of course, the Better Call Saul League, and we are covering it for you live here on blogtalkradio.com/HSFF. Through 7 rounds, let's briefly talk about the 8th round here and tell you what happened. The first pick was, of course, Kelvin Benjamin, the number 3 receiver for Ray Summerlin. Terrence West, the number 3 running back, going to Nolan Ortiz at the 8:02. Drew Brees right after that at the 8:03 to Mike Nazarick as his number 1 quarterback. C.J. Anderson, followed by LeGarrette Blount here at the 8:04 and 8:05. Russell Wilson is Bob McGillivray's number 1 quarterback. And then you see Jeremy Maclin go to Darren Armani as his number 3 receiver. Like that value on Jeremy Maclin, not necessarily in the 8th round because that's roughly where he is going, but for Armani to get Maclin there with his start as his number 3 receiver, that makes a lot of sense there. Kenny Britt going to Steve Reeses as his number 3 receiver. And then you see Deshaun Jackson going to Jared Smola here as his number 3 receiver. The first receiver he's drafted since round 2, Ben Roethlisberger, going at the 8:10 tonight to Kimra Schleicher as her number 1 quarterback. Dante Moncrief and Tyrell Williams, a couple of receivers, are the final picks of the 8th round. Dave, kind of interesting to me, and I don't know, maybe this is just a case of the other guys having their warts get a little bit bigger at the quarterback position, but you don't see Ben Roethlisberger going as the number 5 quarterback too often in these formats, and you're seeing him go to a returning champ, a woman who has won a ton of cash playing high-stakes fantasy football. What do you make of Ben Roethlisberger going to her there?
Well, it's an interesting choice. I mean, if she believes in Martavis Bryant, she should believe in Big Ben. So I think that you get that secondary hookup. If Antonio Brown, maybe she's hoping Antonio Brown gets hurt or busts or whatever, but I guess that'd be bad for Big Ben. I think she likes the Steelers' offense, and I think she'll be all right with Big Ben.
Yeah.
At least he doesn't have to worry about, he's not going to be on the preseason pup list.
that's
or the in-season pup list.
Yeah, we're going to get into that in the next round. But Ben Roethlisberger normally going as the QB12 in this format. He goes as the QB5 tonight, which is normally, honestly, where he had been going, maybe not last year, but majority of his career, he's been floating around as a top 5 option. So he goes there again tonight.
But it is admittedly early for him. There's a chance she could have gotten him in the 10th round even. Not only the 9th. I mean, I'm pretty sure she would have gotten him in the 9th. There's a slim chance in the 10th. Probably not. I mean, so I would have said wait till the 9:03.
It kind of depends.
She would have gotten P. Ryan anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah.
If she on P. Ryan and then Big Ben, what's the difference?
Don't make me slap your hand for announcing picks that haven't.
I've been doing that. I did it with Benjamin too on you. Does that really bother you?
No, I was just being a jerk. Like normal. Ben Roethlisberger, the 5th quarterback taken tonight. So, and you talk about the Steelers' offense this year. Le'Veon Bell's back, we think, as long as he comes into camp without holding out. You have I always call him J.J. Smith-Schuster. Juju Smith-Schuster as what we think is probably going to be the number 3 receiver there, and Martavis Bryant coming back off the suspension. And if he is as good as as a lot of drafters think as he will be this year, certainly that makes Ben Roethlisberger a much more attractive pick here. Dave, we have about 20 seconds here. I don't think that there's anything else I want to talk about.
The show's over?
No, we'll talk about for the 8th round. Tyrell Williams, I think it's important to point out, he keeps sneaking up again. You don't have to say anything about that, but he sneaks up to the final pick of the 8th round. Very, very sneaky, sir. We're going to come back right after this on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. More live draft coverage here on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. Eric Balkman, Dave Gerzak, we are the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, and we're so glad that you have tuned in tonight to listen to our live draft coverage of the Pros versus Joes Division Number 6 Better Call Saul League. If you are not familiar with our show, it normally airs Friday nights at 10/9 Central. You can always catch the replay. Fantasy Sports Radio Network starting Saturdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We're actually on 3 different times over the weekend, but that is the first replay. You can hear us. We're on the overnight, so any of you truck drivers or anybody with insomnia, definitely check us out in the middle of the night on Saturday, or if you're winding down your Sunday evening, you can listen to us then. If you want to stream us on terrestrial radio throughout North America, you can definitely do that as well. We are on demand at iTunes, YouTube, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, Spreaker, and Overcast as well. We do the live show on blogtalkradio.com/HSFF-hour. And shameless plug, if you like our show and you are a longtime listener, go to podcastawards.com. Go ahead and nominate us for Best in Sports or the People's Choice Award, which we are both listed in the categories for. We'd certainly appreciate it. And we'll throw a massive party in your honor if we're able to take down that award. This I promise you. I also promise you we're going to get to some more live draft coverage here as we enter the 9th round here, Dave, tonight.
Hey, I have a question. Was I supposed to register for that and vote for us? Are we allowed?
Yeah, you can, definitely.
No, I didn't do that.
Oh, fantastic. You still can. It takes 2 minutes. I would suggest that you do it.
What, is it per name or per email? You got a bunch of fake Hotmail accounts you've been registering for?
Yeah, I already have a click farm in Pakistan that's taken care of. Is that where they always are? What's the Bangladesh? Maybe it's Bangladesh. Bangladesh is the big
Pakistan, Bangladesh. They're
it's all not USA.
Yeah.
So that's
the Facebook friend farms.
There's USA and everyone else. Hashtag
USA and not USA. You know what's funny is
hashtag America.
In the chat room, I was asking about league names for the FFPC main events, trying to crowdsource. And Shane Hallam said countries of the world, and I said we had considered in the past. And now Shane said superheroes, which was your idea.
That was my idea. Yeah.
Shane, my problem with superheroes is I hate superheroes. Yeah. I don't like superhero movies.
You like the new Spider-Man movie?
I like actually, and the Wonder Woman was actually pretty good.
Yeah, Wonder Woman was great.
But I like to hate superheroes, so and I like Deadpool, so I guess that's it.
Right.
So that's 3 leagues. 3 leagues?
Yeah.
Green Hornet, 4.
Yeah, we could.
Superman, Batman.
It's an interesting order that you're picking these off in. So you said
Wonder Twin Powers.
You said Green Hornet, and then you said Superman, and then you said Batman.
I was just thinking.
Did you like the Green Hornet movie with Seth Rogen?
I was just thinking of stuff. Aquaman.
Yeah, Aquaman
from Entourage.
The Flash.
So that's like 10.
Yeah.
How many? We need 120.
We could easily do it. We could honestly, what we could do?
They can't be the obscure ones. Like we were talking about car brands.
Right.
And Bryce, stupid Bryce.
Audio engineer Bryce.
Stupid, by the way.
Yeah.
He's like, there's 120 car brands. Sure, if you talk about some Russian brand that no one's heard of, yeah, no one wants to be in the Lada League or whatever.
Right.
And that's one you've even heard of.
Yeah. What we could do is, if we did do superheroes, and to not get the obscure ones, we could have all the online leagues be superheroes, and then the live leagues could be supervillains. So we could have the Joker League, the Penguin League, the Lex Luthor League.
This fantasy football is nerdy enough already without getting super uber nerdy with all the comic book crap.
Let's get super uber nerdy with the 9th round here tonight. Kicking things off is Brad Kirkland, the FFPC Joe, grabbing Cam Newton as his number 1 quarterback in the 9th. Cam continues to slip, Dave. Doesn't the fact that Christian McCaffrey keep making headlines and taking all these screen passes and doing these insane plays in training camp, doesn't this bode well for Cam Newton?
Yes.
I mean, why is he continuing to slip? Is it just because everybody thinks his rushing stats are going to be non-existent this year?
That might be part of it, but I mean, how many times even if they're doing this whole thing, they can fake it to Stewart, fake the throw to McCaffrey on the right flat, and then Newton does this typical thing where he tucks it down by his hip and he runs in for a 1-yard touchdown on the left side. They do it all the time.
Yeah, they do. That's true. They're going
to run that 6 times throughout the season. That's 6 touchdowns right there. Book it.
I don't think I've ever owned Cam Newton before, and I think I'm probably going to get him in a lot of drafts this year.
I drafted him in a couple leagues last year. I wasn't happy with it. Obviously, he didn't do well, but I've drafted him in other leagues. He's fantastic to own when he's on.
Yeah. I'm a little worried because I actually, you and I work for the FFPC, and you're co-founder of it, but
don't worry, I still work for it.
It takes up a.
It's this monolith that I can't control.
It takes up a lot of our time. This is not like our primary job or whatever. It's a labor of love. Well, this time of year it is. But you look at
Lucky Dynasty, it is.
How busy we are, and I'm nervous because I joined another fantasy league yesterday actually, and I counted up how many I'm in this year. I'm gonna be in 12, and there's a lot of
managed leagues?
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of high-stakes owners out there that 12, that's nothing. I'm in 300. But 12 leagues is going to be a challenge for me this year. I worked so hard to get out of a bunch of them, and now I'm just adding them all up again.
I guess we'll see what you do.
Yeah,
you should really use some of that management software. Football Guys has some software that help you manage multiple teams.
I actually use that. Fantasy Pros is another one of my favorites. I use that.
You use them both?
Yes.
You pay for both?
Maybe. Yeah, I do actually.
So you upload your teams to both?
I may have done a lot of commissioning for the Football Guys Players Championship and was rewarded with a membership to Football Guys. So I may not be paying for that one.
What a joke.
Yeah, but
you shouldn't get anything free.
I do utilize both of them. So
yeah, they're Football Guys. You get the analysis as well, which is great.
And of course, I always use the Draft Dominator for all my drafts. FootballGuys.com. Check it out.
The Dunsinator.
I'm never calling it that ever.
I don't think I've ever called it the Dunsinator in front of Dodds, but if I did, he would laugh. Actually,
he probably would. So would Joe Bryant too. Actually.
Yeah.
That's really good, Dave. I'm going to start using that when I talk about that with people. That's really good.
Don't say that ever again.
Yeah. Let's go get some barbecue.
Joe's great.
He is. But Joe Bryant, David Dodds, two of the best people in the industry. Julius Thomas is the 902 pick tonight. Samaje Perine right after that to Kimra Schleicher. Andrew Luck, the potentially pupped Andrew Luck. Woof, woof. Going to Jared Smola here at the 904. There's whispers going around, Dave, that he might start the season, not on the preseason pup, but on the regular season pup, which would knock him out for a significant portion of the early part of the season. Smola gets him in round 9. If he's not pupped, if he's there week 1, it's a good value.
Well, the other thing is, this is a draft experts format. Who's their backup? Tolzien? When do you think Tolzien's getting taken? Now, I mentioned him. He's going to still go late. Smola can take him to the 24th and still snipe off all the other people who thought they'd be funny and take Tolzien on the 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th. He's fine. Who else are you taking on the 24th? It doesn't matter. So you lock up that offense, and you're fine. Tolzien is actually pretty solid. So I don't mind the pick in a DE-style format. Even if he's out a few weeks, I think he'll be all right.
Yeah. Henry Muto just child-pleased me in the chat room because he's going to be in well over 100 leagues this year. And he's like, 12, child-pleased. Totally right, man. I am not cut out for managing as many teams as a lot of the FFPC players do.
And cocktails and dreams, that is the understatement of the century.
What?
Chad,
Chad Schroeder?
Yeah, I think he manages a few.
Yeah, 2 or 3. 1,000. Let's move on and talk about Cameron Meredith. He was the next pick right after Andrew Luck. He goes to Steve Reeses. Brandon Marshall is the number 4 receiver selected by Darren Armani. Good job there by getting Brandon Marshall as your number 4 receiver when you concentrate on tight ends and running backs early. CJ Procise, is the number 4 running back here, taken by Bob McGilvray. Eric Decker, the number 3 receiver for Tim McCullough. Duke Johnson, the number 4 running back, taken by Gonzalez McClellan at 909. And then Adam Thielen to Mike Nazarek. Mike Nazarek has 4 receivers. Thielen is the 4th one. Kareem Hunt, the penultimate pick of round 11, followed by Kobe Fleener as the number 2 tight end for Ray Summerlin. All these smart people taking Fleener. Maybe I was a year early on him, Dave.
It might have been just a tad early. Fleener, you never know. Honestly, the funny thing is Fleener's it feels like he's been in the NFL forever. But this is his second year with the Saints. They did lose Cooks. There was some targets that he had. So
Right.
Maybe he'll be all right.
Now the easy analysis would be like, well, they don't clearly Cooks and Fleener were not running complementary. Well, they were running complementary routes, but they were not running similar routes. Yeah. And so a lot of people say, Fleener's not going to get those.
Somebody is.
Somebody's going to get the targets.
Now, Ted Ginn? Ted Ginn's not going to get as many targets as Cooks.
I like Snead. Snead is I feel the need for Snead.
That's nice. By the way, the Darren Armani pick with Marshall, let's keep in mind that he has Odell Beckham in the first round, so that's a nice little pairing for him.
Yeah, getting all he needs is clearly the better Manning. Getting him and then locking
He's
up
still
that
available. That Uber
game.
Hookup. He doesn't have a quarterback yet. So
is that what it's called? The Uber hookup when you have 2 receivers?
Yeah, don't you know that? I just made it up.
What if it's 3 receivers and the quarterback?
Oh, that's the I don't know.
Mega hookup.
Yeah,
something like that.
The Penalta hookup.
Yeah, that's definitely not it. But I like where your head's at. That makes a lot of sense. So getting on into the 10th round here after Fleener, Marcus Mariota, of course, the number 1 2017 quarterback, going to Ray Summerlin. There at the first pick of the 10th round, the number 3 quarterback for 2017, Jameis Winston. These are by the bulky projections, by the way. Jameis Winston is the number 1 quarterback taken by Nolan Ortiz, CJ Fedorowicz is backing up Delaney Walker for Mike Nazarek here. And Cam Brate doing the same thing for Jack Doyle on Gonzalez and McClellan's team. Corey Coleman off the board to Tim McCullough as his number 4 receiver here in the mid-10th, followed by Randall Cobb, the number 4 receiver for Bob McGilvray. James White going off the board once again in the 10th round tonight. We've seen him go in the 10th round in so many drafts, and it happens again tonight.
There's another pairing.
Darren Armani pairs Mike Gillislee with James White. Who's the Patriots running back? Who cares? I'm going to get them all, says Darren Armani.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's so great. Austin Hooper is the backup tight end to Steve Reese's team here at the 10:08. Mike Wallace being selected by Jared Smola right after that. Did you have a comment on the Austin Hooper pick, Dave?
No, I was actually just noticing I'm chewing on this Rio pen. I like that I have a pen from the Rio. Oh, you know what? You like Austin Hooper. I think Austin Hooper with Witten, I will say that's for kind of garbagey tight ends.
Hooper,
it's not too bad.
In my opinion, Hooper might be the better guy.
Well, I mean, the thing is, you get Steady Eddie Witten, and you have Hooper, who could be great. Not great, I guess. He could be pretty good, or he could be terrible. But at least you're going to get Witten's points no matter what. And then there's still plenty. I mean, you're only in the 11th round. You have plenty of options still coming up.
Moving on, O.J. Howard right after Mike Wallace to Kimra Schleicher. O.J. Howard is her number 2 tight end. Jared Cook is the number 2 tight end for Jay Myers. And Skinny Rob Kelly is the last pick of the 10th round, the number 3 running back taken by Brad Kirkland. I'm just counting teams up here, Dave. Through 10 rounds, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams with at least 2 tight ends. 8 teams with at least 2 tight ends right now. And I believe now finally everybody has at least 1 tight end. It's going to be very crucial to these other teams that are trying to fill in that 2nd and 3rd tight end to make sure that they can be competitive at that position all season long as we move on into the 11th round here. Before we get into the 11th round analysis, we're going to take a quick break here. Eric Balkman, Dave Gerzak on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. EB and DG. Eric Balkman, Dave Gerzak here on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour covering the Pros versus Joes Division number 6 Better Call Saul division here on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. Are you all caught up on Better Call Saul, by the way?
No, I'm not. But you know what? I'm realizing no one's calling in. So yeah. I'm going to have to start talking a little more crap about these teams and tell them how bad they are.
Yeah, we could definitely do it.
Into calling in.
Now,
I dare you to call in because your teams are about to start getting worse.
I will say that one player said he was going to be calling me in the final half hour of the show, which is fine. And then another player, Darren Armani, said he wouldn't be calling in tonight because he was on the air for like 70 minutes previous
night. Everyone's sick of him.
I'm not. No, they're not sick of him. But this is totally fine that he's not calling in. But yeah, if anybody else wants to give us a call, or even if you're not drafting tonight and you want to talk about the draft, 346-426-3682. That's 347 game over. You can definitely hop on the blower, as the kids say, the kids in the 60s, and get on the air and talk a little fantasy football, little Pros versus Joes analysis tonight. Let's talk about the 11th round. There's a lot of quarterbacks going off the board here. Well, actually, before we get to the 11th, was there anybody else you wanted to talk about in round 10? And I'm thinking maybe Corey Coleman, Tim McCullough's pick, you might want to discuss there because I know you're a fan of his. And actually, the news coming out of Cleveland has been good with Corey Coleman lately.
Yeah, actually, I got Corey Coleman in that Taylor Young league. I think I got him a little bit later in the 10th round. I don't have the league up or anything because I don't just care that much about it. But I think I got him in the 11th or 12th. Who cares? Yeah, they're saying he's looking good. His hamstring injury, the only reason he's falling quite that far was due to the hamstring thing. Everybody's concerned about the hamstring.
Yeah.
They said he's totally fine, and he's flashing in camp. And it's like, all right, if he's flashing, if the hamstring's gone, now let's reevaluate. This is a guy who got drafted super early. They got rid of Terrell Pryor or let him go, whatever you want to call it. He's the number 1 receiver on that team, or you could argue Kenny Britt is, I guess. But I think it's Coleman, and he's very talented, very fast, very quick. I think he's the guy. I mean, I think that's so cheap. But why not take him there?
You would rather have Coleman over Cobb, who went back-to-back there between those two.
To be truthful, if I had to choose between John Brown or Corey Coleman, who went 3 rounds earlier to the same player, I would take Coleman. If I had to choose between who's going to score more fantasy points, I would say Coleman versus Brown. It's like 50-50.
And Coleman clearly is.
Would you be willing to take John Brown for $5 and I got 5 on it? I mean, I'm honestly, I think it's pretty close.
I think it is close too. I don't know how. I mean, I do like Brown, but I think you've kind of turned me on to Coleman a little bit, so I wouldn't feel confident enough. If you wanted to, in being a good sport, I would put 5 on.
No, it's fine.
More fantasy points.
No,
it's up to you. Okay, all right. No other picks I want to talk about in the 10th round, Dave?
You don't. I mean, I would do it, but usually you have to. I want you to be more animated in your bets.
Well, the thing, like, the problem is I can't be animated with this because I could easily see Coleman outscoring Brown.
Yeah, so
you know what I mean? Brown is already
fine.
dinged up, by the way, too.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, whatever. Anybody else you want to talk about here in the 10th round?
Not necessarily.
Nobody's really catching my eye.
Yeah, these tight ends are all. They have some upside and they all have some downside.
Yeah, 5 tight ends go off the board here in the 10th round. Jared Cook, O.J. Howard, Austin Hooper, Cameron Brake, C.J. Fedorowicz. I know who my favorite tight end is in the 10th round. Who's yours? Putting you on the spot.
Probably Fedorowicz.
I like Hooper best in there. And, listen, everybody's like, oh, my God, it's the kiss of death. Bulky liking, NFC South tight end. Here we go down the Fleener Road, only they renamed it Hooper Boulevard.
Well, yeah, Brate and Howard, you figure they might cancel each other out to some extent. Although I would probably lean. I mean, I know Brate's, whatever, but Howard's the super uncoverable guy.
Yeah.
I would probably lean towards Howard out of those two. But Fedorowicz actually he produces.
Signa callers are cheap here in the 11th round as they are flying off the board. A lot of pink stickers here in the 11th round in this Pros versus Joe's draft. Brad Kirkland takes his backup quarterback. Phillip Rivers here at the 11:01. Matt Ryan goes at the 11:02, followed by Eli Manning. So 3 straight quarterbacks to kick off the 11th round. Eli Manning backing up Roethlisberger. Matt Ryan is actually the first quarterback taken by Jay Myers, and Phillip Rivers is the second taken by Brad Kirkland. We talk about, Dave, not going tight end and quarterback early in drafts because it can really handicap you for building depth after that.
Exactly why this is going to be tough to evaluate these teams because none of these guys did that that interesting move.
Well, look at Jay Myers' squad. What do you make of him not taking any other position other than back and receiver until round 9? So he avoided both positions until the mid-rounds.
I think that it might hamper him at tight end. I mean, by waiting until 9 and 10, because there is a lot of demand for that position. Inherently, you're gonna falter. You're gonna not have as good of players. He's gonna need someone. He's gonna need Thomas to stay healthy. It doesn't seem like that's even feasible.
Yes, the Dolphins are gonna need that as well. Corey Davis is the 11:04 pick tonight, followed by Marvin Jones to Steve Reese's. The number 1 quarterback in 2017, Kirk Cousins. The number 2 quarterback in 2017,
Sorry, with your rankings.
Kirk Cousins. Yeah.
What are your rankings, guys?
Mariota, Cousins, Winston.
I'm gonna keep calling Mariota.
And
Mariota 1, Cousins, and Winston. Oh,
yeah.
God,
and I haven't done the rest of my projections.
Wouldn't it be amazing if that's how it happened?
That is how it's going to happen. So it's not going to be all that amazing. If you go to Eric Balkman Fantasy Football Analysis 2017 awesomeprojections.org, you can check out that website and see the only 3 projections that are up is my top 3 quarterbacks.
Nice.
The rest I'll spill those out. I'll roll those out October, November when I get some more time.
You have read your 1 of 1 free articles for the month.
Yeah.
Subscribe.
And the paywall goes up August 15th. So get in now. Otherwise, you'll have to, I'll have to.
We'll send a worm through your
blast out your
email.
eardrums on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Quincy Enunwa, the pick after Kirk Cousins to Bob McGillivray, and then Kevin White to Tim McCullough after that. Kevin White, the number 5 receiver taken by the Roto expert. Andy Dalton and Matthew Stafford go to Gonzalez McClellan and Nazareth right after that. And then 2 more quarterbacks, Derek Carr to Nolan Ortiz, Dak Prescott to Ray Summerlin as his backup.
So how many quarterbacks is that? 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 quarterbacks, and Dak Prescott is QB 17.
Yeah, he is.
Talk about how, I can't believe how deep quarterback is. I know we say it every year. But Dak Prescott is QB 17. He's a second-year player with upside and a possibly suspended lead running back with a great offensive line, and he runs the ball. So he's got a high floor and a pretty high ceiling. These 2 quarterbacks, Marcus and Dak Prescott, they both – I'm just shocked. I can't believe why. When you look at Aaron Rodgers in the 5th, you think it's a great value? Well, take a look at these 2 picks in the 10th and 11th. You know what? Rodgers isn't that great of a value.
I was going to say Rodgers is looking less as a value there. You look at this round, Dave. 9 receivers go in round 4. 8 quarterbacks go off the board in round 11. I always like putting you on the spot here. Give me your favorite quarterback of round 11, or did you already with Prescott, between Rivers, Ryan, Manning, Cousins, Dalton, Stafford, Carr, Prescott. Which one is your favorite?
Well, I guarantee you I'm going to be wrong, because if I'm choosing out of this many.
No, it's not a right or wrong proposition. It's just which one you like best right now. You got to get ready for Kentucky.
I think Prescott was definitely the best value. I mean, he went the last out of all those guys, and I think that was a great pick. I like the Cousins pick, and I think Matt Ryan's obviously a nice pick there too.
Darren Armani's been listening to all the PVJ coverage we've had this summer, and he knew that he wanted to get the number 1 quarterback on this team, and he did.
But to wait on quarterback until the 11th round in DE and take Cousins is great.
You're still off Kevin White right now. I mean, even late in a DE format.
I couldn't be more off of him.
Really? I think you could.
Even the team is.
I think you could find a way to dislike Kevin White even more than you do right now.
I'm not a fan. I own him on one dynasty team. I'm not even offering him out for trade. I feel bad like offering him.
What would you take in?
I don't know, future second in all day long.
Future third if somebody offers you that for like a bad team?
Probably not.
Yeah, okay.
Probably not. I mean, then I just feel bad for myself and
how poor of a pick that was. Why did you take Kevin White? Was he just like the last guy on that tier in that dynasty league, or did you acquire him as a throw-in in a trade or something?
I don't remember what it was.
Okay. Okay, so obviously
I've tried to purge that out of my memory.
So to answer my question in that round, obviously my favorite quarterback is Kirk Cousins because he will be the number 1 quarterback this year. Obviously, maybe Aaron Rodgers is actually my number 4. Put it up that way.
Very nice.
Tough to be. It's honestly when the Packers are featuring fantasy's number 2 overall running back this year, it's tough for Rodgers to finish as the number 1 quarterback. Why go
conventional? Whatever.
Yeah. Let's get into the 12th round here. One of my favorite players as far as value goes this year, Ray Summerlin takes here. The 1201, it's Robert Woods.
So Eric, tell me, I'm gonna be you.
Okay.
Tell me why I like Robert Woods this year, because I mean I'm just really interested to see what you think. He hasn't done anything in his career.
Right.
Went to USC. Was a total underperformer.
Yeah.
Switched teams, and now here he is. What do you think?
In certain games in Buffalo, he had flashed. I mean, he had flashed some pretty good chops, putting up some good numbers on a run-first offense there. And honestly, a team that he was never really the focal point of that passing offense. And then what happens? The Rams need a playmaker. They go out and they pay him. They paid him a lot of money. And I think we've seen what Tavon Austin can do, and he cannot be a number 1 receiver in the NFL. He's a gadget player. And then you look at Robert Woods. This is a guy who maybe could.
A gadget player with a great agent.
No, I don't. Listen, Robert Woods is not a gadget player.
No, Tavon Austin's a gadget player with a great agent.
Because he got paid that extension that he got or whatever
Excellent
it was.
Agent.
Yeah.
Hey, Farrell, no offense, but his agent's great.
Who is his agent?
You know what? I'm going to look it up. I'm going to look it up because on national radio, I'm going to give this guy credit.
Yeah. So to finish my Robert Woods thought, I think that you follow the money. You understand that they need people catching passes out there. And when people say, well, maybe it's not Robert Woods, he's catching passes out there, and the reply is it's going to be Gerald Everett and Tyler Higbee, I kind of call a little bit of BS on that because I think Woods will be a significant player in a significant fantasy player in that offense. And here he goes to Ray Summerlin in the 12th round. Ray Summerlin, who knows a lot more about fantasy football than I do, winning the Scott Fish Bowl last year. He's got, I believe, he's up to 300 million followers on Twitter. So he clearly knows what's going on. Did you find the agent for Tavon Austin?
I'm still kind of looking.
This guy doesn't want his name up there, apparently.
I clicked on something that said that you can book Tavon Austin through athletespeakers.com. So you can come and speak at your live event.
All right.
And let me just, I'm going to ruin something here for the main event for us.
Okay.
And for our live events. Tavon Austin will not be appearing.
Too bad.
This year.
Too bad.
However, Mike Tyson will be, so come check it out.
Mike Tyson, really?
Yeah.
Will he be at PH?
Yeah, he's going to bring a tiger, and then the whole cast from like The Hangover is coming over.
Oh. And
they're going to just hang out.
This is fantastic news.
Yeah, I just figured I'd break it. Yeah.
Oh, well, the last year of the FFPC as we
spend $400,000 on live events.
Spend money donating to the Small Businesses of Fantasy Sports Trade Association to make sure we get good legislation. Let's bring in Mike Tyson and a tiger instead.
Well, Dustin Ashby just came on, and he's now running our organization, so that's why.
No comment. High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour rolls on with more live draft coverage. Final break here coming up on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. Pros versus Joes, Division number 6, Better Call Saul, Division live coverage draft rolls on here as we are broadcasting it for you on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. I am Eric Balkman at Eric Balkman on Twitter. Dave Gerzak is at David Gerzak on Twitter. The show is at HSFF Hour on Twitter. Yeah, we're not creative guys. Which is clear for anybody who's been listening to this entire broadcast.
Nor entertaining.
Yeah, not creative, not entertaining. I don't know what we are. because we're not the opposite end of that spectrum either, which is probably not great for either
look,
of us.
there's a lot of fantasy football podcasts out there that'll just bore the living hell out of you. This hopefully isn't one of them.
Right. Yeah, I don't think
we
necessarily
won't
boring
overly
anybody.
inform you of anything either. I guarantee you that much.
We tried to get into we tried to get into the 12th round.
We're just getting some rankings though.
Before the break. Robert Woods here going to Ray Summerlin. Antonio Gates is the number 2 tight end taken by Nolan Ortiz. Darren Sproles falls in the 12th round tonight. Maybe not falls. I mean, maybe that's where he's been going. I just think that's a really good value for him as the number 4 running back for Mike Nazarick. We have another team that has 3 tight ends on their squad, and it is Rich McClellan and Roger Gonzalez. Charles Clay is the number 3 tight end.
Can you pronounce his name like the diehard always from now on?
Rich McClellan?
No, Clay. Charles Clay.
Oh. Clay. Charles Clay.
Yes, you do that every time going forward from now until the end of the season, or as long as Charles Clay.
Oh, you know what?
NFL, I only want you to say it that way.
But I pronounced it wrong because when Alan Rickman is doing that, Hans Gruber is saying that, he's saying it in his American accent.
That's right.
Like Clay. Bill Clay. You're one of them. You're one of them, aren't you? Relax, pal.
That's pretty close.
Yeah.
But you have to watch it again and then do it.
Anyway.
I need you to do the Clay Bill. Charles Clay.
Matt Forte is Tim McCullough's pick here at the 12:05 tonight, followed by Carson Palmer and then Jonathan Stewart to Darren Armani. So he takes Jonathan Stewart as his number 4 running back, and then you have Tyrod Taylor right off the board as the backup to Aaron Rodgers by Steve Reeves is here, followed by Carson Wentz backing up Andrew Luck, or maybe starting in front of Andrew Luck. We don't know. Carson Wentz to Jared Smola there. And then Jordan Matthews, a guy I really like this year given his value, goes to Kimra Schleicher at the 12:10. Brashad Perriman is the second to last, penultimate pick, I guess is what it would be.
You said it.
At the 12:11 tonight, followed by Jacquizz Rodgers, good value there. Potentially the starting running back in Tampa at the 12:12. Do you think there's any legs to that, to Jacquizz Rodgers keeping that starting job? Do you think it's Mart?
Yes.
Okay. I think
that's bunk.
I've already been looking at 2018 NFL mocks, and a lot of them have Tampa.
Why?
Just for whatever. A lot of them have Tampa taking a running back in the first round.
Yeah, that's possible.
That'd be whoever it is, if it's Saquon Barkley or Darius Geist or whoever it is going to Tampa in the first round. That'd be a plum spot for dynasty picks being the 101.
Yeah,
pairing up with Winston and Howard and Evans and
all
the fellas in Tampa, Dave.
A lot of great young offensive talent there.
Yeah.
They're really assembling it.
Yeah, they're building
Their defense is pretty good too, right?
It's it's all right.
Pretty good.
I don't think it's terrible. So we'll see. Maybe it's middle of the road. I really want middle. No, I'm kind of cold. I'm kind of cold. I'm like warming myself up. This is what you should be looking at: middle of the road defenses and high-powered offenses, because that's where the fantasy points would be. That's why everybody loves the Packers. The defense sucks. There's no pass rush. They can't cover anybody, and they have a future Hall of Famer at quarterback spraying the ball all over the field with pinpoint accuracy, just piling up fantasy points.
Yeah, it's like the Saints forever.
Saints is another great example.
The Saints is like the prime example of all time. The Falcons too. They've always had a crappy defense.
Yep, that's another good one.
That whole division is terrible.
Yeah, it's really bad. You know what has not been? Go ahead.
I was going to say it's funny because you get that, and then you get the Patriots where their defense is actually really solid, but then they'll get a turnover and they'll be at the 20-yard line, and Brady will just like step back, three step back, boom, touchdown.
Boom, touchdown indeed. I figured tonight's broadcast was a touchdown as well. This is going to be it for our live coverage of the PVJ. We're going to stick around here at blogtalkradio.com/HSFF. If you're listening to the Fantasy Sports Radio Network, pause for right after this on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. Well, that was terrible. I'll be honest with you. My transitions have been better. That was not a good one there to end the show off with.
Pause for the out. Goodbye.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Go away now.
I promise everybody.
Me no talkie no more.
Yeah, me no talkie. The thing, we can't. I was just thinking about this the other day. We can't do like somebody said to me like.
What happens? We did that, and now we're off of fantasy sports.
Yeah.
Can we swear now? Now we get X-rated, R-rated?
Go ahead. I don't care.
No, Zeb Captain call in and talk about all the sexual fantasies he's been posting about in the chat room.
I don't know if we want to go that far. There's certain rabbit holes that there's just no way out of.
I don't even know. I don't. My virgin ears don't want to hear that either.
I was going to say something. Oh, somebody said to me, he's like, hey, you know what you guys should do is do 9 of these Pros versus Joe's Draft. Do it over 3 weeks.
God.
And I'm like, there is no way in hell.
That Alex is giving away 9 main events.
I didn't say that, but
All right.
I couldn't do that. I mean, it's just 6 is tough enough.
I don't know how these people do it every. Well, the thing is it true though that the ones that they'll do it every day for like 3 hours, that's like their sole gig? I mean, I'm not talking about the Howard Sterns of the world. I'm talking about like the regular, like the fantasy guys for one.
Yeah.
They would go on at like from 6 to 9 in the morning or something like that.
But there's a lot of prep that goes into those shows as well. You know what I mean? And granted, you usually have producers, and our producer is terrible. So, like, we have to make up for a lot of his lacking. But you look at what those guys do. They always say, like, for every hour of radio, there's usually 3 hours of preparation behind it.
That's BS.
Well, I don't know about that. For the pros, we just kind of fake it and fart around. That's basically what we do.
There's a lot of their stuff.
I don't know about that. Let's get it.
I don't know.
Maybe
but they're doing it live.
We'll find out.
What's so good about it? It's like, we have a guest. I looked up a few questions to ask the guest.
We'll find out when the podcast awards come out.
I've been a guest on those shows before. They don't have any good questions. They have the same stupid questions. FFPC, or what's up with the tight ends? Yeah, thanks a lot. That was a really well-crafted question.
But honestly, you say that, but there's still people, like we post these draft boards on Twitter, there's still people out there that don't understand why the tight ends are going so crazy. People don't know.
Twitter, people don't know. It's Twitter.
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, if there's people on Twitter saying that, there's people who are listening to Sirius and Fantasy Sports Radio Network.
That doesn't take 3 hours of research to ask that question, is my point.
No, but when you're crafting the questions for the audience, it makes sense that would be one of the questions that you ask.
Yes, that took 2 minutes.
Weren't we going to do
1 minute to craft that question.
Weren't we going to – oh, no, forget it. That was something else. I don't want to get into it. Let's get into the 13th round. Giovanni Bernard leads things off here with Brad Kirkland taking him there, followed by Evan Ingram as the number 3 tight end, taken by Jay Myers from Dynasty Football Warehouse. Alvin Kamara, the rookie running back for the New Orleans Saints, goes to Kimberly Schleicher.
I'm going to start a new site.
Where did this come from?
I'm going to call it Dynasty Football Whorehouse. And Zeb Cap and I are going to partner. And
Did he post that in the chat?
No, I just made it up.
Warehouse?
Yeah, Dynasty Football Whorehouse. I'm going to buy that domain name, and it's going to compete with Dynasty Football Warehouse.
DFWH.com.
Yeah, the Whorehouse. Check out, our picks are cheap.
David Njoku is Jared Smola's pick as his backup tight end to the Black Unicorn, Martellus Bennett. Speaking of Martellus Bennett, this is sort of forget it. It's not,
Mr. Target?
It's not appropriate for this show. Shane Vereen is the pick right after David Njoku, followed by Thomas Rawls to Darren Armani. Dwayne Allen is the backup tight end for Bob McGilvray here at the 1307, followed by Rashard Matthews to Tim McCullough. What do you make about Tim?
Tim's popping off a big whole bunch of wide receivers.
Yeah, he is. That's what I was going to point out. John Brown, Eric Decker, Corey Coleman, Kevin White, Rashard Matthews, trying to make hay while the sun shines, apparently.
Rashard Matthews was a WR2 last year. Nobody likes him, but he was a WR2, and everybody looks at rookie 1, rookie 2. Who cares? Matthews, you never know. He might be the best wide receiver on that team. And the other thing is,
better than Eric Decker?
Maybe not.
Maybe second best receiver, though.
Maybe not. Yeah, but he could be second best. I mean,
in 2017.
And he does have Eric Decker on his team. So I like what he's doing at wide receiver.
Yeah, that makes sense. Ted Ginn is the pick right after that to Gonzalez McClellan. Vernon Davis, the third tight end taken by Michael Nazarek. Now, what do you make of Vernon Davis in the wake of this Jordan Reed injury? You don't like Reed. Would you be targeting VD in one of these DE formats, these best ball formats?
Well, Balky's the person who goes to Vegas all the time. I'm never targeting VD. It's just not something I'm interested in. I want to go there.
Who goes to Vegas to target VD?
I'm just going to take my luggage. You know what I bring home? I bring home my luggage. And a happy wife, happy life, Balky. But VD, I would take a look at him, I guess. He's not somebody I'm going to be really all that super crazy interested in. If he's there at a value, I don't know that the 13th round is like this amazing, crazy value for him. But I would consider him, sure.
Josh Doxson is the receiver going to Nolan Ortiz here, and Cole Beasley as the final selection to Ray Summerlin here in round 13. A pick that I know Matt Kelly from Player Profiler loves. Shrimpy guys with a lot of targets. Nice.
Does he like Beasley?
He drafted him, Beasley, and that was another one of his guys that he was taking with Crowder and these other smaller guys.
Do we know how tall Matt Kelly is? personally.
No, but we'll find out in Vegas because he will be out there for our live event.
Wouldn't it be funny if he has a Napoleon complex? He's like 5'6", and he's like just super short.
First of all, don't throw our 5'6" listeners under the bus here.
Look, I'm not. Hey, Leroy, I'm sorry.
Oh gosh.
Leroy's like 5'7".
Yeah, I don't know how tall Leroy is.
I don't care how short people are. It's fine. I don't really care. I'm not all that crazy tall either. But I'm just wondering if maybe Rob Kelly's a little short. You like short players as wide receivers.
Listen, we'll find
That's kind of a funny thing.
It is funny, and I will ask him that next time I talk to him. Let's get into some team analysis here.
Him last night.
Well, I don't know if we could have believed anything he would have told us when he was on the show on Sunday.
He's always good.
Let's get into some team analysis. We'll start with Team 12 here and break it down. Ray Summerlin from Roto World, DeMarco Murray, Marshawn Lynch, Danny Woodhead, Tevin Coleman, Jonathan Williams at running back. Receivers, Michael Thomas, Pierre Garcon, Kelvin Benjamin, Robert Woods, Cole Beasley. Tight ends are Jordan Reed, Kobe Fleener, and the quarterbacks are Marcus Mariota and Dak Prescott. Dave, no problems with the quarterbacks, no problems with the running backs. Reed, obviously, he can't have a serious issue here because if he does, Ray Summerlin's going to have a serious issue at tight end. And I like what he's doing with the receivers to pile them on a little bit as well. But the running backs should carry the squad.
I actually like the quarterbacks are probably the best part of the team, in my opinion. He waited really long for them. I don't like Jordan Reed. I don't really like, again, I don't really like Lynch. I don't like Tevin Coleman all that much. So, it's not my favorite team just because I don't like a lot of the players he took.
We will get back into team analysis, but as long as we can, let's go to the 248 on the phone line. You are on live with Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak on the HSFF Hour. Who is this?
No, hi, this is Brad Kirkland. I'm drafting out of the 1 spot. Definitely not Raymond, though.
Yes.
So.
Yes, yes. Well,
wow.
we haven't gotten to Brad's team analysis, but we will talk about it right now. Brad Kirkland drafting from the number 1 spot tonight. Dave has a question for him right away, straight away.
So one of your league mates, Jake Valich, is over there?
Yeah.
He's in one of your dynasty leagues? He's dogging on your team like crazy in the chat room. What's up with that?
I believe it. I completely believe it. Well, first, let me give a shout-out to Dynasty number 26. A bunch of good guys in that, and they've actually been texting me picks all night. So they're actually helping put the team together. But yeah,
nice.
Jake's in the chat room, and he's probably trying to trade some second-round picks because he likes to hoard those. So.
I love it. That's fantastic. We don't necessarily need to talk about David Johnson here a whole lot, but let's talk about your second-round pick here, Brad. Jimmy Graham, a guy that is usually going at the end of the third round. What made him your choice here as the third tight end off the board ahead of guys like Greg Olsen and Jordan Reed?
So you hit the nail on the head. I'm on the clock. Let me make my pick real quick.
Oh yeah. Let's hear what this is. Live action, round 14. What are you thinking here, Brad? And actually, you'll get to make 2 picks right here.
Yep.
He didn't know that. Thanks for telling him.
Well, no, I'm telling the listeners. I'm informing the listeners. Brad knows he's been doing this.
Brad, you're up next, right after that pick.
I don't know if you know this, Brad, but after you pick in the 14th round, you get to pick right away in the 15th.
Oh, he's pushing it, baby.
So this is a couple interesting selections here. Before you talk about Jimmy Graham, why Seattle defense? Why Arizona defense?
So no, that's a great question. So I've done online, and the one thing that I've noticed is if I don't get a defense and kicker and I get stuck in those runs, then it just ends up terrible for me. I follow a lot of guys on Twitter who like to get 3 defenses, 3 kickers. So I try to follow that model. And when I get stuck in those runs, I end up with teams like, defenses like the Detroit Lions or the New Orleans Saints. So my thought was, drafting at the turn is like, hey, I've got an opportunity to start the run here. So I'm good with that. And also I did a little bit of analysis, and I noticed that if I get 2 top defenses, they're on average going to score about 75 to 100 points more than the 3 middle-ranked defenses. So I figured if I can take them early, I'm fine taking them just as long as I get 2 top ones and I don't get stuck in the run. So that's the thought.
That's what I actually love that turn. That's a fantastic turn.
Yeah.
In fact, I feel like you guys I don't normally see that. You kind of got lucky a little bit to be the 1, or let's say if it was the 12th pick, and actually have the opportunity to take the first defenses. And the 14th round isn't reaching, so it's not like you started and went like 12, 13. 14, 15 is pretty late for getting a defense.
I think, Brad, that the other thing to bring up, that part of the reason that you took those defenses there, I think it's a similar reason to why you took Jimmy Graham at the 212, knowing that he wouldn't make it back to you. Was that the thought process there?
That is 100% the thought process. So when you guys were on live and you said that, I really like Jimmy Graham this year. I really like that Seattle offense. And it was either going to be Doug Baldwin or Jimmy Graham right there. Obviously, I didn't want them both, but given the tight end premium, I wanted Jimmy Graham. Normally, I would take Jordan Reed right there, but just the past 2 days with the Reed or with the news out on Reed, I couldn't take him. And then Greg Olsen, there's just a lot going on in Carolina with Christian McCaffrey, and I really like Curtis Samuel down there. I think he's going to do a lot. So I like Jimmy Graham more than I like Greg Olsen there. So.
FFPC Joe, Brad Kirkland, drafting out of the one spot, joins us tonight on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Brad, we talked about the tight end premium format, and you get Tyler Eifert with the first pick of the 5th round. Given that you have done some FFPC best ball drafts already, was it important to you to make sure that you got 2 tight ends right away within the first 5 rounds?
It absolutely was. Yeah, I think so, especially this year. It just seems like there's a big drop-off after, like, the first 6 or 7 tight ends. And so I wanted to make sure I got, 2 of those top 6 guys. And I probably reached a little bit for Eifert. I'll be honest with you, I've reached for a lot of picks here. I think I reached for Demaryius Thomas, Tyler Eifert, Theo Riddick, and Terrell Williams. But one thing I've learned, this is my first time doing the Pros and Joes, and I'll be doing my very first main event out in Vegas later this year. And everyone says, throw ADP out the window and just go get your guys. And so that's really what I've been trying to do. And I really like Terrell Williams. He's generally going in the 9th or 10th round, but I figured, hey, if I can get him in the 8th, I'm grabbing him in the 8th. So that was my thought on Tyler Eifert. Reached for him, but I really wanted that second tight end.
Everybody but Dave Gerzak telling you to go get your guys, apparently, because it is a popular strategy that doesn't really work out for me. I think the strategy is sound. I just think my picking of my guys, my guys are incorrect. So that's what's always hindered me. Brad, the other thing I want to talk about, we touched on it briefly when you made the pick at the 12-12. Jacquizz Rodgers, I like the value there. Obviously, the plan in Tampa seems to be that they will be using him significantly the first 3 weeks of the season. What happens after that when Doug Martin comes back from suspension?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think anybody really knows that. But my thought is, look, I've got David Johnson. By getting David Johnson, it allows me to kind of punt the running back position until later in the draft. And I got Theo Riddick, which is a guy that I really like. So if Jacquizz Rodgers ends up being the guy and Doug Martin gets suspended or injury or whatever, I really like the talent there, and I think he can be a league winner if you get him in the 12th round. So I'm actually targeting him in a lot of my drafts right now.
You got, just looking at, obviously I like David Johnson this year, but you got a lot of guys that I really like in Graham and Demaryius Thomas, Willie Snead, Tyrell Williams, Cam Newton in the 9th. I like that pick. Rivers in the 11th, Jacquizz Rodgers in the 12th. I'm starting to like Giovanni Bernard more and more every day too. So I don't know how much team analysis we'll get to you tonight, because we did talk to you, for going on 7-8 minutes here. But Dave, I like this team. This is a team that's obviously going to compete with David Johnson, and I feel like Brad did a pretty good job filling in the other positions too. Your thoughts on his team?
I like the fat Rob Kelly, skinny Rob Kelly.
Skinny whatever. Rob Kelly, yeah.
I actually like the Eifert and Graham together. I think that was a really nice combination. Cam and Rivers, good there. You waited on that. And with David Johnson, it's hard to go wrong with him.
Brad, I want to thank you so much for calling in tonight. Best of luck the second half of this Pros versus Joe's draft. Best of luck in the main event, and we will see you at Planet Hollywood in September, man.
Look forward to it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Brad Kirkland, of course, you can follow him on Twitter at BC Kirkland. Tweets about banking, college football, fantasy football. Hashtag win the day. That is a hell of a muskie in his Twitter profile photo as well.
Really? Oh, yeah. Wow, no kidding.
Big
That's
one.
Huge.
It's a biggin, as they say, in the Midwestern part of the country.
That's what you and Butch say.
Yeah, whatever. So let's move on here and get to Nolan Ortiz's team, and we'll briefly talk about each one of these teams in the final 18 minutes of the show here. Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Terrence West, Kareem Hunt at running back. Receivers, A.J. Green, Mike Evans, Julian Edelman, Devontae Parker, Josh Doxson. Tight ends are Eric Ebron, Antonio Gates, Ben Watson. Quarterbacks, Jameis Winston, Derek Carr. I look at this team, Dave, and I guess if McCaffrey and Cook do come through, this is a strong team, but they're going to have to come through because the only guys behind them is another rookie and another guy that you and I don't like all that much in Terrence West. I think that the receivers are solid. I can get on board with the tight ends with Ebron, Gates, and Watson. And I obviously like the quarterbacks as well. But the running backs, again, just like Ray Summerlin's team, key to this team.
Yeah, I like McCaffrey and I like Cook, but, I mean, there is some risk with both of them. You don't know if they're going to really produce. And then with Edelman, I'm worried about him losing targets. I think he's going to lose a lot of targets to Brandon Cooks, so I'm concerned about that. So as your WR3, starting with A.J. Green and Evans, that's great. And Parker still has to emerge. He's been absolute dog crap his entire career so far. So he really has to come through and actually do something as the WR2 in Miami. And assuming he is a WR2.
Right, that's another good point. Mike Nazarek from FF Mastermind, at FF Mastermind on Twitter, ffmastermind.com, defending champion in this format. He goes with Melvin Gordon, Devontae Freeman, Paul Perkins, Darren Sproles, Jamal Williams at running back, Keenan Allen, Tyreek Hill, Larry Fitzgerald, Adam Thielen, and Kenny Stills at receiver. Tight ends are Delaney Walker, C.J. Fedorowicz, and Vernon Davis. Drew Brees and Matthew Stafford are the quarterbacks. So I can get on board, obviously, with the running backs here. It's a lot of strong picks there. I like the front end of the receiver core in Allen, Hill, and Fitz. Obviously, Brees and Stafford are fantastic. And then Walker, Fedorowicz, and Davis for not targeting tight end super early, not taking a second one until round 10. If Reed misses significant time, that's probably going to be a strength of his team as well. And he knows what he's doing. 2 previous overall third-place finishes in the Pros versus Joes competition. So Nazarek has this on lock.
Yeah, I feel like Nazarek, after round 5, got value like everywhere. Fitz, Perkins, Brees, maybe not Thielen is not necessarily super value, but Sproles in the 12th round. Jamal Williams is a nice pick, too. I mean, his running backs, I like his running backs a lot. Gordon, Freeman, Perkins, and Sproles. That's really solid.
Right.
The number 4 wide receiver with Thielen's a tad weak, but, I mean, that's really totally picking on his team. His team is really strong. I like it a lot.
Yeah, and not much more to say. I mean, we knew Mike Nazarek was going to come in and draft a strong team, and I won't talk a whole lot about it because when we have him on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour as our guest, we will quiz him more on how he built his team.
I'd like to go. I wouldn't mind going to war with this.
Yeah, I'd be fine with it. Roger Gonzalez, Rich McClellan here at the 9 spot. Lamar Miller, Spencer Ware, C.J. Anderson, Duke Johnson, DeAndre Washington, Jordy Nelson, T.Y. Hilton, Allen Robinson, Emmanuel Sanders, Ted Ginn, and Will Fuller at receiver. Jack Doyle, Cameron Brate, Charles Clay are the tight ends, and Andy Dalton and Blake Bortles at quarterback. So this team, Dave, he did have 4 running backs, or they did have 4 running backs through round 9. I'm not a huge fan, really, of any of those. Maybe Duke Johnson I can get on board with, but I guess I'm a little off C.J. Anderson. Off Spencer Ware, don't like Lamar Miller. The receivers are strong, obviously, as he had 4 of them through 6 rounds. I'm not a Jack Doyle guy this year. Cameron Brate, I'm not a huge fan of, given the O.J. Howard presence. I do like the Charles Clay pick in the 12th round, and DeAndre Washington could be significant if Lynch were to go down. I guess this isn't my favorite team here with these 2 guys, but one that team construction-wise I probably would have assembled similarly, just not with those players.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. It's like, so you take Allen Robinson, then you compound that with Blake Bortles, who is cheap, and rightfully so. The guy he's been dreadful beyond the 5 interception practice. So it's like, you have to assume Bortles gets his head on straight.
What's his value at the Dynasty Football whorehouse right now?
Oh, man, he's getting tricked out for cheap. No one wants Blake Bortles. He's like the 10-cent freebie. Anyway, just trying to get you in the door with Blake Bortles. I'm not that interested in Allen Robinson in the 4th round. I just think that pick was a little bit overdrafted. Spencer Ware is not a pedigreed back, so in the 5th round he could easily lose his job to Kareem Hunt. You don't get Kareem Hunt here, so I see some problems with this team. It's not the type of guys I would have taken. I don't like Jack Doyle. He's also a non-pedigreed player. So it's not where I would have gone probably, just not my type of squad.
Former overall champ Tim McCullough and returning league champ drafting from the 8th spot tonight goes with Todd Gurley, Joe Mixon, Jamal Charles, LeGarrette Blount, Matt Forte, and Devontae Booker. Receivers Devontae Adams, John Brown, Eric Decker, Corey Coleman, Kevin White, Rashard Matthews, Zay Jones, Alan Hearns. The tight end, once again, only 1 tight end to Tim McCullough so far, and then Tom Brady is his lone quarterback. So this is a strategy that has worked out for him before, only having 1 tight end. But the fact that he only has 1 quarterback, only 1 tight end here, running back's a little bit shaky. He's going with a ton of receivers here. Not again. Far be it for me to rip on the champ. He knows what he's doing, but this is an interesting strategy here.
All right, Jamal Charles' pick was. I hope that was a mistake. That was obviously terrible. You haven't even had the guts to look up his ADP.
Oh, I can look it up right now.
So taking Gronk and then not taking another tight end to spite yourself is kind of silly. And then taking Brady only, Brady's like 39, 40, 50 years old, whatever the hell he is. He's too old to only have as your only quarterback, especially when other quarterbacks are so cheap. You take, Kevin White or whomever, even Zay Jones. I mean, there's plenty of quarterbacks out there that you could have taken. And granted, there's still other ones that are out there. But, I mean, come on, man. You don't have to do that. You take a backup quarterback, take a tight end, and your team looks a lot better overall in the long run. I think Charles was just a big, huge mistake. Beyond that, the team is actually okay.
His ADP normally in this competition, 403, so pretty good value on Jamal Charles. 1102 for Jamal Charles.
Yeah, it's only six round miss there.
Bob McGilvray, LaShawn McCoy, Jordan Howard, Doug Martin, C.J. Procyse, Chris Thompson at running back. Receivers are Doug Baldwin, Golden Tate, Jamison Crowder, Randall Cobb, Quincy Enunwa, Taylor Gabriel. Tight ends are Hunter Henry, Dwayne Allen, and Jesse James. And the quarterbacks, Russell Wilson and Carson Palmer. Dave, I can see how this team wins. I mean,
yes.
The running backs are strong. I like the fact that he had 5 receivers through round 11, and they all have significant upside. Jesse James is a guy that I like as a third tight end. I'm not a huge Dwayne Allen fan, but I do like Hunter Henry quite a bit this year. And this is a team that should be competitive all the way to the end, in my opinion.
Like I've said about some other teams in prior nights, I think this is a thoughtful team. He put a lot of thought into it. When you look at how it's assembled, it's constructed properly. Randall Cobb in the 10th, Enunwa in the 11th. He had the 3 receivers, but they weren't like elite guys, so you need a couple more. Those were great picks. Wilson, I thought, was a nice value with Carson Palmer in the 12th. I think the way he put together everything, I think it's a really well put together team, and this one is definitely going to be in contention.
Darren Armani, the godfather of the Pros versus Joes, he goes with Mike Gillislee, Eddie Lacy, James White, Jonathan Stewart, Thomas Rawls there at running back, Odell Beckham, Sammy Watkins, Jeremy Macklin, Brandon Marshall, J.J. Nelson at receiver. Tight ends, Travis Kelce, Greg Olson, Kyle Rudolph, and Austin Safarian-Jenkins, Kirk Cousins, and Sam Bradford. So clearly Darren Armani has the worst tight ends in the league, which is really going to be the Achilles heel. No, he has the best ones. And he did a good job there. I think with the running backs here, it was an interesting strategy to get both Gillislee and James White, Eddie Lacy, and Thomas Rawls. He adds Austin Safarian-Jenkins as a high upside number 4 tight end. The receivers are really going to be key. You're going to have Watkins stay healthy. You're going to have Macklin have a solid first year here in Baltimore. Marshall is going to have to remain relevant. And you'd like to see, I think J.J. Nelson comes through with some starter weeks here. But you look at Darren Armani's team, all depends on the tight ends.
Yeah, which is great for him because they're awesome. I mean, the tight ends are the Austin Safarian-Jenkins pick to go with the other 3 is just great. I like this team a lot. He did a great job picking it, waiting until the 11th round and getting Kirk Cousins. The way he's putting his running backs together after waiting on them due to his propensity to take tight ends early, he did a great job assembling this team. I like this team a lot as well.
So Steve Reeses was picking in the 5 spot tonight. Jay Ajayi, Isaiah Crowell, Bilal Powell, Shane Vereen, Joe Williams, and Jalen Richard. Receivers are Julio Jones, Michael Crabtree, Kenny Britt, Cam Meredith, Marvin Jones. Tight ends Jason Witten, Austin Hooper, and Zach Miller. Quarterbacks Aaron Rodgers and Tyrod Taylor. I like the quarterbacks on this team. I like the receivers. The running backs I'm okay with. I'm nervous about the tight ends. I'm not a huge Jason Witten guy. I don't like Zach Miller this year. I do like Austin Hooper, and I do like actually the pick he just made in the 17th round. A.J. Derby is his number 4. I like that one as well. So actually, with that Derby pick, I kind of like this.
Derby is changing it for you.
I like it a little bit more. Well, my main problem was the tight ends, and to have 4 of them now through round 17 and to get Hooper and Derby, I like it.
Yeah, he's doing well there. I mean, my concern is, I guess, is a 3-4-5 tight end, or not tight end, 3-4-5 wide receiver. Cameron Meredith, I like that pick. Not as big of a fan of Britt and Marvin Jones. The rest of his team looks really good, though. I mean, I know what you're saying about tight ends, but I think he's done enough to take care of that. And having Rodgers is great at quarterback. He should be in contention.
Sometimes quantity is just as important as quality. Jared Smolin picking from the 4 spot tonight. Ty Montgomery, Carlos Hyde, Mark Ingram, Amir Abdullah. By the way, Jared Smolin trying to defend his title. I should bring that up. So Montgomery, Hyde, Ingram, Abdullah at running back. Receiver Antonio Brown, Des Bryant, Deshaun Jackson, Mike Wallace, Corey Davis, Sterling Shepard, Mohamed Sanu. Tight ends Martellus Bennett, David Njoku, and Eric Swope, and Andrew Luck and Carson Wentz. I think if Luck, gets through this and is healthy for, the early part of the season, the quarterbacks are going to be fine. I like the running backs. Receivers, he never really ignored it. Obviously, he went receiver to start and then just kept pounding them. Jackson, Wallace, Davis, Shepard, Sanu. And I like the tight ends, adding in Njoku, who has a lot of upside, Swope, who has a lot of upside. He's going to have one of those guys come through, and I think there's a decent chance of one of them coming through for him on 2/3 of the season. So this is a team I can get on board with as well.
I like the team except for the tight ends. I don't like Martellus Bennett. They're not going to throw enough to the tight end in Green Bay. That's just my opinion, and that's what they've done traditionally.
Really? It's the first time ever hearing of this.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to keep saying that. I don't give a crap. I'll tell in case you missed the last 5 broadcasts, they don't throw tight ends in Green Bay. And Njoku, he's still a rookie. Unless you're Jeremy Shockey, you're not going to get enough targets to actually be productive. And Swope, he's the guy that everyone kind of likes to take. He's a little bit trendy, but, he's got to produce for you. I just don't think he's good enough at tight end. The rest of the team is fantastic.
Yeah, other than that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln?
Well, I'm just saying. I can rip on the tight ends. I can say the rest of the team's good.
You and I both like the rest of the team for sure, and I obviously like the tight ends a little bit more than you. Kimmer Schleicher picking from the 3 spot tonight. Ezekiel Elliott, Adrian Peterson, Derrick Henry, Samaje Perine, Alvin Kamara. A lot of youth at running back there. Brandon Cook, Samari Cooper, Martavis Bryant, Jordan Matthews at receiver. Tight ends are Zach Ertz, O.J. Howard, and Gerald Everett. Quarterbacks, Ben Roethlisberger, Eli Manning. You look at this squad, Dave, I'm a little surprised that she only has 4 receivers here through 17 rounds. And the youth is really what stands out to me. Not only Henry, Perine, and Kamara, but O.J. Howard and Gerald Everett at tight end as well. Cooper Kupp as a number 5 receiver.
As a starter.
Yeah, as a starter for the Rams. So, there's a lot of youth on this team, a lot of unknowns. Certainly she's shooting for the moon a little bit. Maybe she had to in this format with 3 other defending champions here.
Well, Kimmer, let me tell you, if you're listening to this broadcast, we offer dynasty teams at the FFPC. You should really buy some because you're drafting so many young rookie players. Get on the dynasty bandwagon. It's so much fun. I don't like the tight ends beyond Ertz because it's 2 more rookie tight ends.
Right.
You go back with that same trend. Howard and Everett are not going to produce. Howard could, technically. There's a 10% chance of it, 20%. But not enough to be really productive in a starter. Beyond that, the team's pretty solid. Again, like you said about at receiver, but with Kupp, I kind of like the Kupp pick.
Yeah.
He could produce as a rookie.
He might be able to.
Going in the 16th round.
Jay Myers from DynastyFootballWarehouse.com, Le'Veon Bell, Leonard Fournette, Frank Gore, Latavius Murray, Rex Burkhead at running back. Receivers are DeAndre Hopkins, Alshon Jeffrey, Jarvis Landry, Stephon Diggs, Dante Moncrief, and Brashad Perriman. Tight ends are Julius Thomas, Jared Cook, Evan Ingram, and Tyler Higbee, and the quarterbacks Matt Ryan and Ryan Tannehill. So the problem for me on this team, Dave, is tight end, but
Once again, back to tight end. I swear, Darren Armani did impact a bunch of people with his picks.
But what I do like what Jay Myers is doing here, he didn't take one until round 9, but through round 17, he's got 4 of them.
Yeah,
so he does have
all crappy.
But again, even the crappy guys are going to have good weeks, and he's not going to have to decide which to start between Thomas and Cook and Ingram and Higbee. When these guys go off, if they go off, then they'll be in his lineup. So I like what he did at tight end. I think it is the weakness on this team. Other than that, it's a solid one.
Well, his first 8 rounds, I don't like Moncrief overall, but his first 8 rounds were great. I mean, the wide receivers and running backs he took, Gore was solid there. So that's great. Matt Ryan and Tannehill, good value there. Yeah, like we said about tight end, I agree with you there, Balky. That's what we're going to have to worry about. From the whorehouse to the warehouse, not too bad.
Yes, exactly. I don't think we have to talk about Brad Kirkland's team a whole lot because we did while he was on the air. We both like it. A lot of solid teams here. And that is, going to conclude our pros versus Joes coverage for 2017. Final thoughts, Dave, takeaways from now that we've sat through 6 of these drafts.
Can we cancel it for next year?
You want to cancel it? Nobody really pays attention to this.
Not really. I actually kind of like it. I'm ready. I'm ready to do number 7.
Yeah, I'm not. Definitely not. I'll give you my takeaways. It was interesting to see in all these drafts, once again, that it seemed like there was a position that seemed to drop every single draft. Quarterbacks in one draft. Tonight's draft, quarterbacks did. We saw running backs fall in Division 5. We've seen the tight ends fall in last week in one of them. I can't remember which one. But we've seen tight ends being pushed up quite a bit. And I think this year more than ever, the strategy for a lot of these pros, and maybe to the Joes to a certain extent, I think we saw a lot more risk-taking. I thought we saw a lot more draft picks being drafted on their upside and their ceiling, knowing that you only get paid out. And that's always been the payout. But I think this is the year it's been most prevalent is that we saw a lot of players trying to shoot for the moon and trying to get these dominant squads to win their league, and then you get that 2018 FFPC main event entry. That's my take on it.
Hey, you know what? I really can't do much better than what you just said.
Okay,
I have to kind of concur with you.
All right.
Conquer.
So, yes, you conquer with me. I appreciate that. I know my wife does as well. That is going to do it for our broadcast tonight. I want to thank Brad Kirkland for calling in. Of course, Darren Armani for helping put this together every single year, the FFPC that has given us the opportunity to broadcast these shows for you, our producer and mutual friend Rob, our audio engineer Bryce. Most of all, each and every one of our listeners, whether you're downloading this later, listening to the stream, or listening live, we certainly appreciate it. And with that, let's do another live draft on Friday. All right, Football Guys Players Championship live on High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. For real money, we are covering another one of those this Friday at 10/9 Central. They'll just list the players: Frank Sladd, Jerry Kaforski, Tyler Lahr, Ken Orovitz, Tony Giustiniani, and Donald Rich. Ryan Hita, Bill Stavros, all going to be participating, as well as previous show guests. Biplab Mandel is going to be participating in drafting. Jimmy Wagner will be on. Henry Muto will be drafting. Taipei Tony Pung will be drafting.
Yeah, Team 747.
And, of course, the defending champs of this draft, Chris Holland and Alex Blake, will be drafting as well. So
this will be great.
We'll listen to. We'll probably
finally get some good drafters.
We'll probably get some
pro chumps.
Some callers calling in that night as well. So that will be at 10/9 Central. So check that out, and we'll have more live draft action for you then. Ladies and gentlemen, draft boards for this will be posted on FFPC and High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour social media accounts sometime tomorrow. Make those Planet Hollywood reservations. Sign up for the main event, Football Guys Players Championship, Best Balls, Dynasty, and more at myffpc.com. And make sure that you're drafting live with us in Vegas. It is going to be a great time. We got a lot of stuff planned for you out there. You will not be disappointed. With that, for Dave Thursnack, I'm Eric Balkman. Your week officially begins now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. That was broadcast live and heard around the world. Eric and Dave will be back next week with more analysis, interviews, and advice from a guest much smarter than they are. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk with you again next week.
Him again, the sound the engine in is like a bird. You see fireworks in Corvette tire skirt the boulevard. I know how you work, I know just who you are. See, use a bitch, your hormones probably switch inside your DNA.
This is our episode 302 of the HSFF Hour. At what point do we start getting better than our first one?
1,000.
I'm still waiting for that to happen. I'm gonna have to.
You should go back to journalism remedial school, and I should too. I join you in a class.
Yeah, that's and
broadcasting 101.
Broadcasting 101, English 101, talking 101.
English.
And clearly, what we need is some sort of remedial fantasy football course to be peppered with that.
Yeah, not bad.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you Friday.
With free next-day delivery from Staples, you can run your business like a pro. You can guarantee the marketing department that they'll get their supplies tomorrow and guarantee the accounting department that they'll be delivered free. With free next-day delivery, you'll have the ability to move deadlines up and adjust budgets down. Go to Staples.com and get the office essentials you need delivered next day for free. Staples. It's pro time. Orders over $49.99. Placed by 5 p.m. Excludes weekends and holidays. Eligible items only.